Hey everyone, my name's David, and wow, I haven't done one of these in a while.
David Chow is a bioengineering student at Harvard College, but just a couple of months ago, he decided to drop his courses and go on a road trip across the country that's funded by the government of Canada. And on top of that, working on a new social media app that is similar to Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, but using a slightly different way to communicate. Here's what you'll learn in this episode: advice and tips on how to successfully get admitted into top universities like Harvard, what Harvard is really like as a freshman and what people usually misunderstand, typical mistakes people make when looking to get in a world-leading institution, and how David convinced the government agency to pay him to travel around Canada while doing creative work. And last but not least, the idea for a new social media app called Babbl that puts audio as the main way of communication. You can find in the description some timestamps if you want to skip to the part you want to listen to right away. And last but not least, give us a follow on Instagram at The Visionaires and subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you enjoyed the episode and you learned something from it, don't hesitate to leave us a rating. And it'll help us bring the content to more people who might never discover the podcast, and it means a lot to me. So anyway, here's David Chow, everybody.
So I wasn't born here. I was born in Quebec City, but I was raised most of my life in Montreal. Grew up here in a French school for most of my schooling, pretty much. But then I decided to. So if you're a listener from Montreal, you would probably know what a CEGEP is. I decided to switch from French high school to English CEGEP because French was consistently my lowest grade, and so, and so and so I had to do the switch. But also, I think in general, I wanted to be in an English environment.
Right.
More, and it's crazy because like I've only stopped being in a French environment for like 2 years or 3 years now, or 4 actually, and I've and I've pretty much lost all of my French already, like
Jesus.
all the like 15 years of French school, which is crazy to think about. Like you can lose a language so quickly when you stop using it on a daily basis, but anyway, so I did. So I was at Brébeuf for high school, and then I went to Marianopolis for CEGEP. For those who don't know what CEGEP is, it's like grade 13, the equivalent of like grade 13 or grade 12 and grade 13. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then for college, I decided to go to the States and study at Harvard. And so I finished my first year last year. And then when COVID hit, I decided to take a year off. And so I'm currently on a gap year working on different projects and just having a good time not in virtual school.
And here we are.
And here we are. Yep. Other than
Speaking
that,
of,
yeah. No, sorry, go ahead.
Speaking of forgetting a language, all my friends warned me when I was looking for a CEGEP. I ended up with Brébeuf, but when I considered Marianopolis, a lot of my close like francophone friends were like, "You're never gonna learn French ever again in your life, probably." And this is like the last time people really want to solidify it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
Regret?
I was also
Regrets?
I know what you mean. I was also skeptical initially. I was like, yeah, you know what, I can continue reading like French books and stuff to keep up with my French.
Yeah.
And that never happened.
I mean, you're not at a disadvantage particularly, I guess. Maybe.
Yeah, no, I think it's just it just sucks because I still remember a time when I was really really good in French and I could write these really nicely written French essays and stuff. Now if you ask me to write a French essay, it'd probably be like kindergarten level, right? Yeah, my vocabulary's just gone to the bin pretty much.
So you were born in Quebec City, but you didn't stay there for very long, from what I understood.
Oh no, I probably wasn't even conscious when I was in Quebec City. I think so. We moved like when I was 1 or 2 years old, pretty much.
Okay.
Or no, that's
Right.
a lie. Maybe a bit older, but still.
Okay. So I guess the big catch here is that you ended up in Harvard. Now, was this part of the plan from the very beginning, this vision of going to a really well-reputable higher education, or is it just something you discover later on?
Yeah. To answer your first question, like, was this part of the plan since the beginning? Like, absolutely not. and it still surprises me to this day when I hear stories of people who've been preparing um for college since high school. Like when
Yeah.
I was in when I was in high school, I wasn't thinking shit about what I was gonna do like after high school. Man, like I was like in a different place when I was in high school.
Really?
And I think, yeah, so I also think like the people who know me back in high school when I was at Babbl, I was really a different person. Um, and so like college was never a thing that I thought about. I was like, oh, I'm probably just gonna go to McGill, just chill in
McGill.
Montreal, or I don't know. I had no plans at all for my life. You know,
Wow. All right.
that was my situation was when I was in high school, and it was only until sort of the end of my first year in CJEP um,
Okay.
that I was like that I started considering applying to school in the States as a possibility and as something that I might want to do. I think this also this also plays into to how sort of as a person again, like if you know me personally, you know that I'm sort of since high school and
Yeah.
moving going into CJEP, like I've changed a lot as a person, and with that change, I sort of developed this sort of just like more ambition and more need for
Mm.
um to sort of satisfy those ambitions, and it felt to me like a lot of sort of what I wanted to do personally, but also sort of my own like personal into like curiosity when it comes to both culturally as well as socially pushed me to want to sort of go out of Montreal. And on top of that, this is sort of just a general threat, a trend over the last few years. But I've just more and more felt like I've become this like nomad, where I just like I can't stay at a certain place for longer than like for longer than X amount of time. Like I
Right.
just feel like I've used up all of its resources. I've seen all it has to offer, and I just feel like I need to like get out of my comfort zone again and then go find something new and something exciting.
Kind of like a parasite. You suck out all the resources. I'm kidding.
Well, I mean, you know, depending on your perspective.
Right. Sure. So you said it was really towards the end of your first year at CEGEP, right? So that was when you were like 17, 18, right? Something like that. You developed this really big interest for going to the States and going to the higher education, right? But I guess at
Yeah.
that point, it would probably be too late for you to just start doing all the extracurriculars, all the stuff. So you were really, but even before developing this ambition, you had a really well resume for, let's say, an Ivy League school or a really high tier university.
Absolutely not.
No?
Um, no, I would. I think. Okay, so I honestly think like so. I think the turning point for me,
Right.
again, sort of as a person and the way I think about the world and myself and my relation, sort of like what I want to do in the world. That turning point really happened, I think, like around Sec 4, Sec 5, um, which for non-Quebecers is like grade 10, grade 11, right? Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
And so it was only then that I started really thinking about sort of what was my role in society, what I wanted to do with my life, and sort of the activities that I wanted to get myself involved in. Um, and so, but even then, like what I was doing was sort of I was sort of just getting started and getting used to involving myself in a lot of
Right.
activities, and in CJEP 1, when I went to CJEP, I think another big part of why I wanted to go to Marianopolis was part of this idea of like being a nomad and going out of my comfort zone. Obviously, like I didn't know anyone going into Marianopolis, and I think like that's the case for most people, and that's sort of one of the main reasons, other than the fact that my French sucks. Like one of the other main reasons is I wanted to go somewhere where I can sort of just start fresh
Right.
and meet new people and sort of create this new identity for myself. And this is a story that I don't tell many people, but evidently I'm about to tell it to a lot of people like that.
The turning
But
point.
Yeah, no. So I wanted to go to Marianopolis because it was an opportunity for me
Right.
to leave this sort of safe space where I have, I had a lot of friends at Brébeuf, but I wanted to go out, meet new people, and sort of carve this new path and journey for me. And so, like, going into my first year, like, one of my own sort of personal goals was to just like meet as many people as possible, sort of learn from new perspectives and just
Yeah.
try out as many things as possible. And I participated in like a shit ton of clubs, and my schedule was horrible. And I would not recommend this to anyone, but I think it's a great way to just get yourself involved and more importantly, sort of just learn what you sort of as a person enjoy and want to do. And I think like I didn't find that in my first year, but I've definitely sort of explored a lot of different paths and learned from a lot of what other people have done, and that's been a huge engine of inspiration for me, just seeing what
Mm,
other people do and and sort of sucking their ambition and their goals and being like, damn, like I also want that,
exactly.
but no, that's true. It's like the people you hang out with, like you end up sort of their energy, their ambitions sort of diffuse to you in some way the more you hang out with them. And so I think it's really important to sort of just meet a lot of people. And I think like going into CJEP with that mindset really helped a lot. It was draining though, because it was something, again, it was sort of that turning point because I'd never done that before. And so there was a lot of personal growth involved as well. But sorry, I totally forgot what was the original question.
Doesn't
Oh, it
matter.
was about, yeah. It was about like, um, resume stuff, right? Yeah, no, I think no, to like I was I only really started getting myself involved like I said, like
Mm,
towards Sec 5, CJEP 1, and then CJEP 2. And I think the nice thing about CJEP is that you get that extra year to sort of be a bit more mature, learn
yeah.
more about yourself and learn more about your environment. And I honestly can't praise the CJEP system enough. Like whenever I talk with my non-Quebec friends, like I'm always like, yeah, like this is like everywhere should have CJEP because you pretty much just get an additional year to better understand sort of yourself and the world around you, right? Like it's um I don't want to sound condescending, but it's like if I looked back at myself when
Right.
I was a year younger, and even today, like every year I think about myself a year younger, I just think about how immature I was, right? And I'm sure like next year I'll look back on this and I'll be like, why the fuck is David talking about this? Like it's so stupid, So it's like
That's such a good sign.
yeah, no, I think like every year people
Yeah.
mature, and there's just so much learning to be done, and these years are so precious. And to be like to yeah, it's I don't know where I'm going with this, but
For people in the Quebec system, I have to say, I guess at this age, normally a lot of people start, having this turning point that you said because the university is so close and their career is so close. But especially in Quebec, in Sec 5, we had to choose whether we want to go into more sciences humaines, humanities, or science based. And then I think this period, Sec 4, Sec 5, is for me that was the case in Sec 5. Before Sec 5, I barely do anything. I did a cooking class outside of school. That's all I did. Okay. But at Sec 5, I was like, you know what?
oh wait, is that the Brébeuf thing? The
Yeah,
cooking?
it was in the
I
basement.
remember we had that too.
Yeah, some things
I
haven't
never did it
changed.
though. I never did it.
It was fine. We made cupcakes and shit. But anyway,
I heard it was fun.
it wasn't the worst. I mean, cooking is fundamentally fun, I would say, because I would say it's like some human nature. But anyway, in Sec 5, I was like, I have to start doing something, not just because, university is approaching, but also I just didn't do anything. I was amazing at Fortnite in Sec 3, Sec 4, but that was about it.
What made you want to do something?
Well, sometimes I find it's just that click of maturity in a way that you start seeing the world in a more global perspective. In Sec 4, I also started reading some books like outside of school, which was not really a thing before that. And I really can't tell you what prompted me to do that, except I just developed this interest all of a sudden. Maybe I'm just probably
Yeah.
forgetting, but
No,
so I started.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah, no. That's what I tell everyone too. Like people keep asking how how did you when did you become what when did you want to do all these things? And we remember when you were in high school, you were this closeted nerd who would just play CS:GO on his computer and never come out of his room. Like when did that
Right.
change? And I was like, gosh, I don't know. Like it just clicked.
Right. You
It
can't
just
really.
it and yeah, like a lot of people ask because it's and I have parents asking me because they're worried about their kids. They're how do I get my kids to click? And I'm like, I don't know. Like they'll click when it clicks. Like they'll realize when it
Mm,
happens. I'm
I
like,
th- I think it's just the imminence of this university thing, probably, or CEGEP, where you have to actually this matters for your career. I mean that's the realization when you realize that, because before Sec 4, your studies didn't really count towards your
it's true.
applications,
Well, I mean,
right?
that's not what my parents said. It's like you only realize that after you're like, wait, mom and dad,
It was all a lie.
it was all a lie. Like, well, why'd you
Yeah.
make me work? None of those grades counted for anything. What do you mean?
I kind of start telling people, when I see at school who ask me, I have some younger people who ask me this question. I was like, honestly, you could have 60% in Sec 1, 2, and 3, and then you have 90,
Doesn't
and you
matter.
would get into anywhere.
Yeah,
Don't
doesn't
stress about it.
matter.
Just have some fun the beginning first years, right?
I think it's also mostly about the growth, right? They look at the
Mm.
growth, like how much you've progressed. Like the story of maturation I think, is more moving than the story of the kid genius who is just good at everything. I mean, that's
The
awesome
character
too,
arc.
but not a lot of not a lot of people are born with the ability to just be good at everything. And I don't even think I believe in that, right? And so, but sort of the character development, right? That's what you're aiming for, and I think a lot of people mostly go through that. And actually, there, to add on to the point of the question of what prompted people to sort of change and change their habits and see the world in a more globalized way. One thing that played a pivotal role, and I still sort of attribute most of that change to it, other than sort of the fact that somehow
Mm.
magically it sort of just clicked. The other thing I think that really influenced me was this friend I had. Um, yeah, I
I'm
haven't even told
intrigued.
him that. I haven't even told him that, but I've told a few of my close friends about this. But um, so he, I won't say his name, but he'll know who he is. He this yeah no he'll know. He was a really close friend since I think Sec 4 or something. That's when we really started hanging out. And this dude was just he just he was a history buff, and so he knew everything about history. He knew everything about world events, about current events, and it just blew my mind how much knowledge he had about the world, about history, about how the world functioned, about current issues. And again, this was back when I was sort of this closeted nerd who didn't really care about anything out of my own bubble. And interacting with him, I just felt like a fucking idiot. I was like, dude, I'm so stupid. I don't know anything. And I think at that point, I just really looked up to him, right? And this was my peer,
Right.
same age, same class, really good friend. And I was like, wow, I really looked up to this person, and he really inspired me to just get my stuff together. Um, and he was also one of the main reasons why I did Model UN for the first time when I was in Sec 5. And I think that was also a turning point for me, just having that exposure of going to a room with a bunch of strangers and pretty much
It's
role
yeah.
playing and socializing with them, and it sort of it just opened me up to a whole new world of this is the real world we're living in, right? You have tons of interesting strangers out there, that you can meet and talk with and learn from. And so, yeah, no, I just really want to give a shout out to my
Shout
friend
out to
because,
him.
yeah, no, this always comes up when I have these
Hmm.
these discussions about sort of how like about my childhood and or not my childhood, I guess my teenagehood, um, and how things changed. And yeah, I think the people that end up influencing you play such a huge role.
You're on to who that meme. Who you sit next to in class will literally change your entire life potentially. Kind of like that
100%,
idea.
100%,
Yeah.
and and it's scary though. It's scary because you can't really control that,
You feel so
right?
out of you can't control anything because your destiny is shaped by so many factors, and but you can only like try to get your chances up, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's sort of like the mentality that I have is like like 50% or most likely probably less, but 50% is a nice round number. 50% of your life like you can control, right? Like I can say like, I'll go to the grocery store today. Fuck it. Or like, I'm going to go do this or do that, right? But the other 50% is completely out of your control and all about luck, right? So I can, because I know you want to talk about college stuff, at least for a bit, but like I can apply to I can have the perfect resume and apply for a job or even for a school, but yet if the person who's reviewing my application for some reason they had a shitty morning, right? Like I don't know, like they spilled their
Somebody
coffee
bumped
on
their
their like
car,
yeah,
scratched their car.
exactly. Like they're just not going to be in the mood, right? And I could have a great resume and I won't be accepted. And so it's like you can only control so much. The rest is just luck. And so, and have you do you know Malcolm Gladwell, the author? I think we talked
Yeah.
about this,
Yeah, we
but
talked about outliers
yeah,
for a bit.
yeah, his book Outliers, man. Like I can't keep recommending this book enough to everyone, but it just talks about sort of this idea of like the American dream and how, to a certain extent, it's not really, it's not entirely real, right? Like, oh, if you work hard, you'll succeed. Like, if you work hard, yes, like you've got half of that done,
Right.
and the other half is if you're lucky, then yes, you'll succeed, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I think no, I just that's sort of like my life philosophy at this point. It's like I'll do as much as I can, but the rest of it is out of my control. Um, but I think the mentality that you shouldn't adopt is like, oh, like so much is out of my control that it doesn't matter what I do, right? It still very much matters what you do. It's just like do like everything you can, but don't be depressed afterwards if it doesn't work out, right? Because just
Mm.
know that the way life works is not exactly linear, right? It's not like the effort
Yeah.
that you put in is going to equal how much you get out of return.
It's good to see life in a more like a free will perspective that you're totally in control. I had a period where I was really, really like into like hard determinism, right? And I felt a bit like even though I knew like if I believed that I had the free will, I could probably do a lot more things. But like this inner logic of me that everything just very hardly determined, it kind of like what does it matter? Anyway, not important specifically, but
Yeah.
um,
No, for sure, for sure.
let's get back on track. So when you got into Marinopolis, what were the extracurriculars you signed up for?
Yeah. Um, man. So I think so in my first year I did so many things that I ended up dumping like 90% of them. So
I
in
mean,
my first year I was part of the student union. Sorry. Um yeah, so in my first year I was part of the student union. I was the coordinator of external affairs. I was part of the debate club, the Model UN club, the bunch of other small things that I think I dropped. Um, I was also part of the paper, the Marinopolis.
the paper cut?
What's it called again? No, the other one.
The other one. There's another one.
The the fully digital one. The Marinopolis Review something.
World
I
Review?
feel yeah, World Review. I feel awful for forgetting that. I was also part of that. But I ended up dropping. Yeah, I ended up dropping that. I ended up dropping the debate club. The debate club was fun though, but I was I was getting clapped by everyone.
I'm in the big club
I
right now,
sucked at
and
debate. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure if I
tough.
stuck around and practiced, that I would have gone better. But people were just too good going into it. but so I left that. I think I stuck. So mainly I stuck with Model UN and Congress, or the student union part. I think those were sort of where I think I felt most comfortable in, and also where I think I could learn the most from and grow the most from. And obviously, people have limited resources, so I can't be, running around doing everything I wanted to. But I think that's sort of, and those, those two already suck up a lot of my time.
Yeah.
And then moving into second year, I continued being a part of the student union, but as president. And at that point, at that point, I was also doing Model UN actually. I was that was for the conference. Yeah, but most of my time was for the student union.
And what was the thing that you gained the most from that, other than obviously the title?
Yeah,
and this experience.
Experience, lots of personal growth and personal development.
Okay.
Just the experience of working as a team, with a team, working with people, socializing with people, meeting people, and just that entire sort of the entire baggage of around sort of leading a group, project planning, project management. It just there's just so many like soft skills that you develop from from putting yourself in a position where you're constantly bombarded with different challenges, different tasks every day, and we had our fair share of challenges pop up. And so just I think in the end you just think of it, I now I can think of it sort of almost as a startup, right? Like it's a small team, and every day you're just constantly you're constantly fed with information, with challenges, and you have to think of ways to tackle these, and think of ways to create new projects, and then work as a team to solve a lot of these issues, right? And so and that was something that, and the sort of the team, the group projects that you had at school, like I never really had exposure to that.
Your internet cut out, but you were just talking in slow
Did
motion.
I cut out?
Anyway, you're back. I kind of heard the last sentence.
Yeah, sorry. So I was saying, like, other than group projects at school, there wasn't really any other opportunity for people to just work as a group on a team project, on a team effort, and coordinate and sort of plan that whole process, and think about ways to be as most efficient as possible when doing these things, right? And obviously, like I was I wasn't the best at my job, certainly, right? But there's just so much learning that happened when I think about it over those last few years in personal growth. And I know I keep saying personal growth, but I really think this is the theme of the conversation, at least for me, is like just like year over year of just learning, I think, is sort of the metric that I use to gauge how good of a year it was, right?
Yeah. And you ran for president and you got president. Now, what was exactly let's say, what made you be fit for this role at that year?
Yeah.
Like what did people click about?
I was, honestly, I don't know. I don't know, but I know for myself, like I can't talk from their perspective, but from my perspective, I was part of Congress since day one. So since my first year, and Congress has always been, I've always found a lot of joy in meeting new people and getting to know new people. And I think like people is another word that I've probably repeated tons of times, but it's another theme, I think, in that, everything ultimately is about people, right? Like we like people build startups to solve people's issues, right? People run for local office, for federal office, whatever, to solve people's issues. And I think like one of the things that clicked for me was I just really wanted to meet as many people as possible and help out and create relationships with as many people as possible. And that was also part of the reason why I ran for coordinator of external affairs in my first year, and why I really want to continue doing
Right.
staying in Congress and helping people out in my second year was again because of the people, right? I had a lot of good friends and a lot of good communities at Marianopolis, and I wanted to stay involved. And the way I saw myself doing that as most efficiently as possible was to continue in Congress. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I mean, yeah. Actually, that's a really common start. I mean, I remember Lawrence Liang. He started off as external affairs. Now he's president. You're right. We live in a society. We live in a people-centered world. We only answer to people's demands. Especially, I think in every sphere, I spoke to Lucas Bélan, and what really marked me when I heard about his story of being 19 and running a $2.5 million startup. The amount of, like, a big portion of that story was just talking about human connections, how he connected with this guy, how did this relationship turn out, how would this bring him to the next person, and then how he interacted with these people, and then that's how he got their start. And he said CEGEP for him was more a school of life, meaning to be how to interact with people, more than a school of hard sciences at all.
That's really interesting. Yeah, because like when I think about Marianopolis, when I think about school, like the first things that come to mind are not what I learned in class, but are the relationships that I built, and that still last to this very day. With the relationship with the people, with the professors that I had, and all those all the hallway stories, all the small talk that happened, like those are the things that I remember, right? And I think yes, school is a place for people to learn, different things from classes, but also part of the reason why I decided to take a year off from college this year was exactly because of that, right? School campus is just this mini, if you think about it, it's just a microcosm of the real world, right? You have responsibility, like instead of a job you have to study, right? And then you socialize with people. These are sort of like your coworkers, your peers, whatever, right? It's just a smaller like version of the real world that you live in. And so and I think that's what's magical about the campus, right? Is that you get to sort of be like a mini adult without the added responsibilities or challenges that real life comes with. And so absolutely. And the reason, right, that I come back to this, the reason why I took a year off was because if you don't know, all the American colleges have decided to, or not all of them, but at least Harvard has decided to put all of the classrooms online, and so it's all virtual. And so I won't be able to physically go back to the United States and live on campus there with my friends or interact with people. And two, everything's going to be virtual anyways, right? And so, and because of that, you're sort of just removing, in my mind, the main value add of college, right? Which is that you get to live with people, meet people, and interact with people.
I can't agree more.
Right? And so it's like, why would I, pay tuition and then spend 25% or a quarter of my college experience not like benefiting from the main value of college? And so to me, that just didn't make sense in my head. And so I was like, well, I'm taking a year off so that I can fully enjoy my college experience in my next 3 years, right?
I actually like to tell this story. I don't tell it often, but I had a friend last year in Sec 5. He applied for Harvard summer school. He got in. It was everybody was so happy because I think nobody at our grade at that point even like were even close to Harvard level. So he got in Harvard summer school, which isn't Harvard obviously, but Harvard summer school still something. And then so we're excited. He's gonna go on campus. I asked him, hey, can you vlog it for me? I think it's pretty interesting. And then a couple of months later, Harvard sent an email. Hey, by the way, everything's gonna be online. We're gonna send you all the camera material
Damn.
via mail. And
Dude, that
it
yeah,
sucks.
horrible.
Nobody like they had the online experience. Nobody like actually interacted afterwards.
Yeah.
Nobody didn't make any connections really. It was tough. And then now looking at Marinopolis, I have some friends at Marinopolis. So all of their things are online. You can be in the Bahamas and you can still like do Marinopolis, right?
Yeah, which is cool. Like it's cool to be in the
Yeah.
Bahamas, but I mean, it's like you miss out on everything else, right?
And some of my friends are having a terrible time, like terrible. Like they don't speak to anyone. Nobody have their cameras on unless like it's demanded, and
Yeah.
you know,
I mean, that's
no
virtual
connections.
class for you, right?
Yeah,
Virtual class for you. I mean, yeah, no,
and
that's exactly why I didn't want it.
Yeah. It's very controversial thing from Babbl students at least was that our labs were still at school every week. Our midterms, our finals were still at school, and this was pretty controversial because students were like, "Hey, what the fuck are you doing, Babbl? Why can't we just do school at home? Wouldn't it be so much better?" And then after a couple of months in, people grew so weary of not weary, tired of online school, and then they were so glad that they could actually go to school a couple of times and see even with like obviously very good precautions and health measures. But what do you think? What do you think is the effect of this? I feel because it's stagnating on a lot of people's development in that sense. I feel like this whole like
Yeah,
that's not.
but I mean, like, like, so some of my friends at Harvard on campus, they actually like they don't care. Like these are people who are like book nerds, right? Like so I like because I'm thinking of studying bioengineering. I know a shit ton of pre-meds, um, and these people are really focused on sort of that end goal of going into med school,
Yeah,
you know, getting a good GPA and stuff like that. And so to them, like that's what's important, and I respect that, right? It makes sense. Like for some people, it'll work. Like virtual school, in some ways is not the end of the world for those type of people. But for some other type of people, maybe like you and I, well, I don't want to speak for you, but I'm imagining from what you've said, and for some other people, right, that the social aspect is what we live for and what's important to us, and especially with what we possibly want to do or don't want to do, right? Like I'm still in a stage where I'm not exactly sure where I'll be career wise, and meeting people and being inspired by them is really important to me, right? Because that sort of opens my eyes to these different paths
definitely.
and sort of different opportunities and different doors that I can take. And so to me, like that element of meeting people is so important. But for some other people, like it doesn't matter, or it doesn't matter as much, right?
Yeah.
I have friends from the spectrum of, oh yeah, like virtual class is great. I get to like do class in bed and wake up at like 5 p.m. I don't care, right? To other people who are having a horrible time, who are like, yeah, like this is depressing. Like I can't, like I'm taking a gap year this semester, right? And so, you know, at the end of the day, I think like, you know, we're not a homogenous group of humans, right? Everyone's got their own sort of needs and end goals, and for some people it just works better, and for some people it doesn't. Whether it works better or worse for the majority of the people, I don't know.
Do you
My hypothesis obviously is that most people it's crap.
do you have any
That's just
advice
sort of from my personal experience? Yeah.
for students to make the best out of this period, even though you don't actually get to interact physically? Any advice for that?
Yeah, yeah. That's a great question. I think so. Again, from my personal experience, from the experience of like taking a year off and just sort of exploring my other interests, I think that'll sort of be the theme of my advice, right? Take this, like the fact that everyone is quarantined at home and self-isolating and don't have as much opportunity to go outside. Like this is the perfect opportunity, um, if you have the resources and you're in a good spot to just explore some of your other interests and do something that you wouldn't do in a normal year, right? Like 2020 wasn't a normal year. So why do you have to sort of try to fit in
Mm-hmm.
like a normal year's routine into a year like 2020, right? Like
Absolutely.
try to go out of your comfort zone, try to do things that you wouldn't necessarily do, and who knows, like you might find new hobbies, you might find new opportunities, you might learn something that you didn't know about yourself during this time, right? And so and and the reason why I say by personal experience is because I took this year off, and I, outside of my science and more sort of classroom related um stuff, I'm also a huge fan and hobbyist of photography and videography and the creative side of things. I've always loved doing it,
Yeah.
and I'll continue doing it. But I've never really explored it as much as the STEM and political and business fields that I've done through extracurriculars, right? And so taking this year off was for me an opportunity to explore that path. And so what I ended up doing was finding an opportunity to produce a media project, and while producing this media project, road tripping across the entire country of Canada. Um, and so to me, like taking this year off was an opportunity for me to do creative work, right? Because I like never in a million years would I see myself doing creative work after I graduate. And so having this quarantine time where things are super unusual, it was an opportunity for me to just try this out, right? Who knows? Maybe I would like fall in love with this and I would just sit down and just end up doing this for the rest of my life, right? And so sort of, not being afraid to just go off or deviate from the main path and just sort of create your own branch. Like I think that would be my advice, right? And I like, yeah, I don't know if that makes sense.
I have to agree with you. Well, I can offer a bit of my own experience.
Mhm.
Well, obviously, I don't know how much I can attribute it to the actual lockdown, but I would say that it gave me some time to think about what I could do, what I should do. Um, I started this podcast, for example. I had so much time left, yeah, and then I was like, you know what? Why not? Let's try it out. And then obviously, I got to meet incredible people like you and among others. Also, it made me realize. Well, the most important thing was that I had more time on my hand, really, because I was forced to be at home, and I developed more, for example, my journalistic side with passions relating to journalism. So I guess my experience is that really you have this time that you probably wouldn't have any time any other year, and this is it's like you have an excuse to not do a certain things now. You should use this new time that
Exactly.
you have and try
Exactly.
out other things. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like we're just I think it's like the saying goes, I don't remember where the saying comes from, but it's like humans are most dangerous when they're bored. And I think it's like, quarantine just brings so much, like it gives you so much time, and a lot of people just end up wasting that time. Like they get
Mm,
like super bored, they end up watching TikTok, no offense, or whatever, right?
yeah.
For
I mean, I've
hours
been
on
watching
end.
it
And
quite
like
a bit.
that time you can spend that time just doing fun stuff, right? Just learning about yourself or learning about the world, reading a new book or whatever, right? There's just so much time. And I think in a way, like, um, if anything about 2020 was good, it would probably be that a lot of people have found themselves, obviously, I'm generalizing here.
Yeah.
You do have like parents who don't have as much time because they need to take care of the kids and whatnot. But for people like us, right, like college students, we just end up finding a lot of times on our hands. We don't need to do all of the other things that we usually need to do, and so it's just an opportunity to just do whatever, right? And just explore whatever and just go wild with it and just take the opportunity to just, be a different person or be a new person or try new things, try a new hobby. It's just like, to me, I
Yeah.
think I just look back on all the things I didn't do in 2020 because it's just so many things that I wish I had sort of just started, right? And so yeah. I mean, I don't know if you relate to that, but
I had a thought. Hold on. I can't remember. Anyway, we'll bring it up afterwards,
yeah, for
later
sure, for
words.
sure.
Okay, so Marianopolis. What about? So now you're very close to applying for university. Now, what program were you in at that point?
I was in honors health science. Yeah,
Okay,
I sort of
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Are you asking like, is
No,
that
no,
what I
no. Go
wanted
ahead.
to
Go
do at
ahead.
that time?
If that's what you think I asked, go ahead.
um, yeah, no. I honestly, the only reason I went to health science was because I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I
Okay.
think like most people, it's the case for most people. Like there was this. It was super hyped, like the pre-med track, right? Sorry, and it still is, right? Like that's sort of like that's sort of like the holy grail of
Yeah.
like smart people, right? Like these smart people apparently do pre-med at McGill, right,
Yeah,
or
you could
at
say that.
other UDs, right? Um, and so I was like, oh, like I want to be a smart person, so I'll do health sciences. And honestly, to be fair, had I not gotten into Harvard, I might have applied for pre-med at McGill. And had I gotten in, I don't know, maybe my life would have been totally different. Maybe I would have been a practicing physician.
We
But
might not even be here. We probably wouldn't be here at
no,
all.
we maybe probably not, right? And so and that's such an interesting conversation, like pre-med and going to med school, because I have such like I think I have a controversial opinion about med school, but we can get to that in a second.
All
Um
right. All right.
but so yeah, so I was doing health sciences mostly because I wanted to do sciences for sure. And we talked about this off record, but to me, like it just like a lot of the hard sciences and the skills that you gain through science class, you just can't. It's just harder to gain outside the classroom, right? Like a lot
Yeah.
of the topics are really hard to understand. You need someone to mentor you. You need a teacher to get you through it. And also, you have a bunch of labs that you just can't do at home,
Yes.
right? And so it's always better to do science in a classroom. But when it comes to sort of things like business and soft skills like management or accounting, like these are things that you can easily just pick up a textbook and acquire that skill, right? And even better than that is just sort of gaining that skill in a more hands-on experience, right? Like starting
Yeah.
your own startup or building your own project. Like that's an even quicker and more efficient way
Yeah.
of gaining those business skills than like learning the theoretical stuff, right? And so like that's sort of another reason why I really wanted to do sciences rather than one of the social sciences. Um, but yeah, no. So I ended up doing health sciences, and I don't regret it because I think it showed me I was sort of exposed to a lot of different sciences, right? Biology, chemistry, and physics, and I like most of them. And I
That's
think
good.
even though right now I'm leaning more towards the engineering side, I still think it's bioengineering, so there's still a lot of chemistry and biology involved, and so it wouldn't have been pure applied sciences anyways. Um, but yeah, to answer your question.
Okay. It's a tough program, honors too. It's not an average program at all.
I think people sort of exaggerate how
Really?
hard
Oh,
it
okay.
is. Yeah. Honestly, honors like is no offense to Marinopolis for the people who are behind the honors program, but it really like it,
Say it.
no, I'm not gonna say it because
Okay.
there's gonna be repercussions.
All right.
But it's not as hard as they make it out to be,
Okay.
and it's a really funny system because you like you get points and you need to achieve like 100 honors points for you to get your honors
Okay.
diploma, and you can get like honors through various different ways. It's just you just have to do more things when you're in honors, right? You just have to do like attend seminars and stuff like that. That's all.
Mm.
That's really all it is, right?
I guess other than the program itself, the students there are probably pretty buffed. Like
Sorry.
other than the program itself, the students in
Mhm.
honors must be all pretty buffed.
What do you mean by buffed?
Like they're good. Like they're high
Oh yeah,
overachievers.
I think like that definitely most honor students are pretty high achievers. Or the way I should rephrase this is most high achievers are in
Right. Yeah.
honors.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well
because
put.
I don't think the other way around is necessarily true.
You're absolutely right. Okay, so your Congress president. You were also doing Model UN, which you were in a leadership position. How did those affect your grades? How did you balance this extracurricular and
Yeah.
school?
Oh man, it was horrible. It's yeah, no, I think one of the other skills that you gain throughout that is the experience of just having a horrible schedule and time managing as most efficiently as possible.
Yeah,
I think that was a crucial part for me not, like for me surviving throughout the year because there was times when I was like mentally and also physically really stressed and just drained from all the workload that was coming from every
yeah,
angle imaginable. And so um it's like yeah, like you gain so like you gain such valuable time management skills through putting yourself through such a hard time, right? And I think it's important because a lot of people aren't able to sort of put themselves either like in the right mindset or whatever and get themselves to work or be efficient. And I think time is literally the most valuable and limited resource that we as humans have or don't have, right? And I truly think the difference between someone who does well and someone who doesn't do well in whatever they're doing is how well and how efficient they're able to manage their time.
yeah.
So so yeah, I think like that was sort of the biggest thing that I got out of that, at least personally in terms of personal growth was
And at
that.
the end, what was your R score like, Kotek?
My R score was fine, and I think again a big thing that played into that was just being able to balance everything and being able to like prioritize things and manage my time. I think my R score was so this was so obviously you guys are on the new R score, right?
Yeah, I suppose so. It got changed like last year or 2 years before that. Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
So that's good. There wouldn't be any confusion there. But so on the new R score, I think I was like 39 or something. I don't know.
Okay.
Is that high?
Isn't the whole thing out of 40 or it's out of 40 or out of 50? Out of
No,
40,
I
I
think
think.
so. I think originally it was out of 40, but now the new one is
You
like
got 39 out of
higher.
40?
No. So 39 was for the new one, but I think
Oh.
the new score is not out of
Yeah,
40.
it's
It's
higher
higher.
than before.
Or I might be lying. I think it's 39.
Okay, but we know that you got around 39. Okay, you
Oh
know
yeah, okay, yeah. It was. I think it was. Yeah, yeah. No, I'm not. Yeah,
the
I'm not
base
tripping. It was around
requirement
39.
the base requirement to get in probably the most programme contingenté, the hardest to get into the program in Quebec, which is McGill Med, I think. You need an R score of 36. And you got 39.
I think so. I think it's 36 now, or like 37 or something.
36 around.
Yeah. Okay.
You realize that's out of this world, right? That's
I mean,
stellar.
like if I can give advice to myself back then, is that I would tell myself that grades like were not as important as I think they were back then. I also think sort of the difference between 37 and 39 is not that much, to be honest. Like if you think about it, like once you hit like 95% on a certain like grade or like exam, like that the effort you need to put to go from 95 to 100 is like so much more effort than you need to go from like 80 to
Yeah.
95, right? And so you start to see like these diminishing marginal returns when you start to enter the higher regions of scores, right?
Yeah.
And I also think like at a certain point that's just not a good an efficient way to spend your time anymore,
Right, exactly.
right? Because honestly, the difference between someone who has a 95 and a 100 is to me is null. There's no difference in that, right? Like they probably have the same amount of intelligence or the same amount of like logical reasoning, right?
Yeah.
It's only one person
Just
just
little
decided
details. Maybe
to
you just wrote
spend
it,
like
read it wrong, you know?
no, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, right. And so it's like to me, the difference between like someone who has a 39 and someone who has a close to 40 R score, which I know I have a friend who I
Jesus
know someone
Christ.
who is there. Like a difference between someone who's at a 40 and someone who's at a 37 or 36 is minimal. It really
Mhm.
is minimal. Um, and and so to me, my advice would be like, don't worry too much, right? Like that range of grades, as long as they're in that range, like it's fine. Like
Once you
you don't
reach
need
it,
to
the
like
effectiveness plateaus, right? Yeah.
exactly. And that's the same thing for SAT scores, right? Whether you get a 1600 or 1590, 1580, 1570, 1560, like honestly, there isn't much difference. Isn't much of a difference, right?
Mm.
Like you like if you got a 1560 or 1540 and you took another test, you'd probably get a higher score, right? But it's like, do you really want to spend your time trying to reach the perfect score when you could possibly put that time
Right.
into, I don't know, like reading a book, developing a new skill, like working on your startup or working on the
Yeah.
project, right? Like it's all about like where you want to put your time. And at the end of the day, like some things are just more worth it than others, and that's only like something that I understood like after I got in. But I think also that's sort of the contradiction. It's like once you get
Yeah.
in, you also feel like it might not be as important, but maybe
In
it is.
retrospect, you
So
always see it in kind of like that perspective.
mhm.
But 39, okay, that's excellent. So also when it came to SATs, how many hours do you think you put in for that?
Right. So I think like
Oh,
for
wait.
context,
Actually, how did your Kotav 39 translate to GPA?
I was probably like, I mean, I don't know how they calculated, but I think I put in my application like 4.0, like 4.0 out of 4.0. Because like, I don't know, that was through my research. Like, I just went
Okay.
on Google and searched like Kodak to GPA, like
Yeah.
converter, and that's what they told me. Or no, no, it was the general average because they look at the general average. Never mind.
Okay.
They don't look at the Kodak. So I had to convert from my general average to um to the GPA. And the converter, all the converters online said my general average converted to GPA was 4.0. So I was like, okay, 4.0 then.
That works. All right.
Yeah,
Anyway,
but
SAT, how many hours did you put?
like shit ton. Um, I I'm not like a natural born like genius. Okay,
You say
like
that,
I
but
have
yeah, okay.
no,
Okay.
but I have some
Yeah.
friends who are just dude, like they're just smart
Mm-hmm.
people, naturally smart people. But for me, like a lot of times, like I don't consider myself as necessarily like a naturally smart person. I just put in a lot of effort into what I do. And so for the SAT, I did study a lot, a very lot. And actually, my first score wasn't even that good. My first score was what was my first score? I think it was in the low 1500s or like high 1400s or something like that. And like that was my first score. And obviously, to most people who take the SAT, they'll take the SAT multiple times, and
Yeah.
that's what I would recommend as well. Like most people don't ace their SATs on the first try. Those people are just natural geniuses,
Yeah.
or they were just really lucky. um, but yeah, so I took the SAT again, and it just man a lot of hours of studying. Like I think over the summer, like, but I think a lot of hours of studying, but it wasn't necessarily like whole days of studying, right? I think a lot of
Okay.
it was just compounded studying. Every day I would set like weekly goals. I would do weekly tests, or no, I would start with monthly, but then when you get closer to the test date, I would
Yeah.
start doing
Okay.
weekly tests. But then it was just a lot of it became a routine. Like every day I would do like 1 to 2 hours, and that was especially true for the subject
Mm.
tests. Like every day I would be like, okay, I'll do like 1 to 2 hours, and I went through books, I went through like test prep materials. It was crazy, man. It was crazy time, and honestly, like when I think about it, it's like, um, had would I had gone just as good of a score had I not studied? Probably not, because just for like I think, but also I think it differs from person to person, right? Some people just
Yeah.
are more efficient with their studying. Some people are less efficient with their studying. Some people are smarter with their studying, and so it depends. You just need to know, like personally, like for yourself, like how much studying you need, and yeah,
No, I had a moment where I was really like in shock or like baffled, whatever. So it was during my finals, right? Like a couple of weeks ago. Okay, so my finals finished a bit earlier than the Marinopolis finals. Okay, so I didn't know that. So I called up one of my Marinopolis friends after I finished mine. I was like, "Hey man, what you doing?" And my good friend was playing, like he was gaming for like already 4 hours, right? And I was like, so I thought you were gaming. So you finished with your finals. I was like, so how'd you do? He's like, high 90s. I was like, so what you doing in the next few days? I got a chem final tomorrow, and he was just gaming the entire day, and he got high 90s and everywhere. You know,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
just how it is. You just had to find your own.
It just yeah, no, you have to find your own sort of your own what's the word mojo when it
Sure,
comes to studying.
haven't heard that word used in forever. Mojo.
Yeah, mojo. It's a good word. But
So can you put
yeah,
a
no,
number into the hours? Let's say an
number
estimate.
into that shit, man. That's like a Fermi question, dude.
Give me a rough guesstimate.
Fuck. I don't know. Probably more than 100 hours, definitely.
Okay, geez. Yeah, that's something.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure I know people who've done more and who've done less.
So what was your score at the end?
um,
And how many tries did it take you?
yeah. My final score was 1570,
Okay, solid.
and yeah, it's a decent score. Um, I did the SAT 4 times actually.
Okay.
Um, and it's like every time it's like incremental growth, right? But
Yeah.
it's yeah, every time it's incremental growth. I did the SATs, so that's the regular SATs. I did them 4 times, um, and then the subject tests, I did them just once, and they worked. But I think it's like I said, like have I had like in retrospect would probably not have done it so many times because like once you get into a certain range, like
Mm,
it's fine, right? Like
yeah.
like,
Up
and I think
1550 and
it's
above,
very
it's stellar. Yeah.
yeah, no, that exactly. And I think like especially true for some of the um higher level colleges in the states. Like they use SAT mostly as sort of like a threshold entry barrier, right?
Like a big
Like
filter at
once
the
you
beginning.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Like once you get past that, it doesn't really matter anymore, right? Like if you get past with a 1550 versus the 1600 dude, like they're not going to choose the 1600 dude specifically because he had
Yeah.
50 points more than you on the SAT. Like that's just plain stupid if they do that, right? Like from an admissions perspective, right? Like you're not optimizing for any like
Yeah.
you know like characteristic by doing that. So if
Any
anything, you're
reason? Yeah,
optimizing
go
for the
ahead.
wrong thing because
That's
that
true.
dude probably spent more time, right?
Well, he got in. Good for him, probably. Anyway, any resources you want to recommend to anybody listening, potentially who's studying for the SATs?
For the SAT, just get SAT books. They're super valuable. Just get
Any
SAT
particular
books.
ones? No.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to give free shout outs to people that don't sponsor this podcast, but but so
Amen.
for the
Hallelujah.
subject test, I used Barron's. I used Barron's, but I know there's also the Princeton Review, and that's equally as
Mm,
good. Just my advice: just choose one, and just go through, just work through the entire book, and then you'll be fine. And there's also the SAT prep book, which I think is the
the official
official
one?
SAT. You should also do that one. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, why would you? Like,
Yeah.
it's the official book. Like, you should
Sure.
probably read through it. Probably
That's
has
true.
some helpful information.
Did you do any like study groups, group sessions, or were it just mainly a one-man job most of the time?
No, no. I didn't have too many. Like, not many of my friends were also doing the SATs, but even
Mm,
the ones that were, it's like we didn't really do group studies for that. And
okay.
I
Yeah.
think it's like it's hard. Well, it depends. Like if it's like because a lot of the content is just more. I think it's just easier to do alone. But
Yeah.
yeah,
So when it came to applying, so which set of university did you apply exactly?
Oh, I only applied to Harvard. I applied
Oh,
early.
all right.
Yeah,
100%.
this is
One for
actually
one.
so funny because like I applied early and I was planning on applying to a host of other schools by regular decision, which so early application the deadline is November 1st and then regular is January 1st.
Yeah.
But then I was so burnt out from my application to Harvard because dude the essay writing part is just so much work. It's so
Right.
much work. You don't realize it until you start doing it. And so I was just so burnt out. I only ended up starting to write my other essays for like the 10 other schools that I wanted to apply to, like 2 weeks before January 1st, like sometime in like early mid December. That's when I started like my application process
It's a
for
shit
the
ton
other
of work.
schools.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so like had I not been accepted in early, I probably would not have been able to finish my applications for the other schools. I just started so late. But yeah, that was just a funny story. But
One for one. I mean, jeez.
I mean,
I have a
yeah,
fr-
no,
yeah.
I consider myself like super lucky. Like I said again, like most, I really do. There's some, there's so many smart people out there, and a lot of my
Yeah.
friends are a lot smarter than I am. I'll tell you that 100%. I consider them just so much smarter than I am. Yet I'm here, right? It's like
I think it's that
I just
practical
consider myself
intelligence
lucky.
also.
Could be, but I also just think a lot
Yeah.
of luck plays, and I'm just really grateful for it.
What about recommendations letter? Did you spend too much time thinking about that, or?
I mean, for recommendations, I think it's pretty straightforward, right? Like you think about like which teacher you have the best relationship with, and
Yeah.
which I mean, yeah, like you just go down the list, like right, like which class did you have a good grade on, which class did you participate in, which class you have a good relationship with it, then just you should probably go to that teacher, right? I don't think you need to
straightforward,
think too much about that. No, it's very straightforward.
I know what I'm disappointed at? That you didn't make one of those. You know what I'm disappointed at?
Oh, what?
That you didn't make one of those viral acceptance videos so everybody can
Dude, it's like that's such a missed opportunity, right? It's such a missed
Right?
opportunity. Dude, I could be YouTube famous right now.
You could have put your title. I only applied for Harvard and I got in or whatever. Anyway,
I mean,
would have been a cool moment.
yeah, it would have been quite clickbait, but
Quite clickbait.
no, I think no, I think it's like one of those things is like I don't consider myself. I'm somewhat superstitious, but
Okay.
I also know that my beliefs are completely false and are just like psychological like effects. But I'm still superstitious, right? It's like I feel like if I did that, I would have jinxed myself. Although I know like statistically that doesn't make any sense. But it's just like
it's a natural
mentally, it's
impulse.
just-
I feel like.
Yeah, it's just like mentally, I'm just like what if it jinxes me? I just can't. I'm not.
Yeah.
Fuck that. I'm not gonna do it. And also, like, what if it's bad? Like, I'm
It's
like,
still
what
a
am I gonna
great
do with
video.
that
You know,
video?
they don't
What am I
show
gonna
they
do
don't
with
show
that?
the negative videos, but I bet they're pretty entertaining. No offense, it's a hard moment, but I bet
No, it is.
there's
it
a
is.
load of them. That's anyway.
Yeah, yeah. No, exactly. It's just too many emotions. I just couldn't. So I was like, nah, I can't. I can't. Do
So
it.
what-
Also,
but
it was
what-
just so like it was just so like the email came in at such a like random time. Like I had no time to set up. It's like it came in and I wasn't gonna be like, okay, let me set up my recording real quick. It just I was like we were not given any notice of when the
Right.
email was going to come. So it was just like those 3 days where my heartbeat was constantly at like 120 RPM, like the whole day, right? Like I would like be like I would have my phone like off the whole day just because I didn't want to know that like it was there.
It's scary.
Right?
Yeah.
And then the moment I least expected it to come, it appears in my inbox and it just appears and like instantly not instantly but like immediately like almost like as a reflex without even thinking about it, I just open it and I just go onto it because I was just like yeah, I'm just gonna like get it over with as soon as possible, that way I don't need
Yeah.
to think about it anymore, right? And so there was like no window of time or opportunity for me to get set up whatsoever.
Because if you kept waiting, it just make you feel even more like sick inside. Like, oh my god, you be anxious. You'll
Yeah.
think all
Oh
about
man,
these things.
it was so stressful. It was
What?
horrible.
When did you receive it? Before regular application deadline, or?
Yeah, I received it like mid-December.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are you doing? What do you remember? What you're doing?
I had just gone home. I think I was browsing the internet or something. Like, yeah, I don't remember exactly what I was doing, but I had just gotten home and I was on my computer
Mm.
for a few minutes and then it just appeared.
How'd you announce to your parents? Just casually
I
walked in
just
the room.
I
Hey.
no, so they actually weren't even home. They were abroad. So
Oh.
I just sent them a picture. I didn't even
There
call.
you go.
I sent them a picture. And then, so that yeah, and then they called it. Then whatever. But
Nowadays, you get in Harvard, you're gonna make a TikTok about it, and then that's it. That's that.
yeah.
You do the renegade while you're doing it. All right. Anyway,
Then you do that, you get rescinded, my friend.
they retract their
Yeah.
confirmation.
No, none of that on campus.
All right.
I'm
So
kidding.
no, TikTok is a great
We
platform.
accept
Give it to that.
TikTokers in our world.
They're fun. I gotta give it to them. I'm starting to like develop and like just do it with your friends. It is fun, you know.
I can't understand that.
Maybe you don't have to try to necessarily want to go blow up, but just do it as a fun activity. It's really fun. I gotta give it to them.
You do you, Mingxi. You do you.
I'm neither. I can neither conform nor deny the fact that I'm making TikToks on the side. But hey, anyway, so you got into Harvard and you moved in. So I guess a common thing that happens to most people, I assume, is that you're the big fish at where you started. For example, at Marinopolis, you were a star at your hometown, and then you get into the best of the best. Now, a lot of people, they kind of feel, for example, like a loss of self-identity or confidence or anywhere because they realize that there's such a world that's beyond them still. So what was their experience?
Oh yeah, like 200%. You start by it's funny when you see the memes that say like, I peaked in high school and stuff like that, right? Like that's so true. It's so true, especially when you go to very competitive college afterwards. Like you realize, like I might have been like a medium to big sized fish in high school, but then like you go to college, like you're just a tiny ass fish in this
A
huge
little
pond,
go fish.
right? Yeah, no, that's literally what it feels like. And like you get to campus, you're surrounded by these super smart people, and you're like, how the fuck am I here? Like these people are so smart. How am I here? Like what the heck, right? And it's imposter syndrome, and I think and it's very real for most people. And everyone feels this, and that's sort of what's ironic about it, is that like you feel like you don't belong here, he feels like he doesn't belong here, she feels like she doesn't belong here, everyone feels like they don't belong here, but everyone is here for some reason, right? And it's just like but like you learn to live with it, and the more people you talk about it with, and the more people you end up meeting, you realize like
Right.
like you start to find people who have the same interests, you start to build friend groups, and that's when you start to become more comfortable. But certainly like the first few months, really it's like it's a lot. And certainly some people have dealt with it better than others, and I think, again, like I'm going to praise CJEP again, but having just that 1 year of extra maturity helped me sort of weather a lot of those initial challenges and anxieties. And I think also what's interesting is that because I had 1 year extra than most Americans, like I came in a year older than most freshmen. And so it was it was also sort of a different, I was kind of used to sort of this college environment already, because CJEP is very similar to the college environment.
It's a preparatory kind of like program. Anyway.
It is preparatory in a lot of ways. And so very, very again, if we could put CJEP everywhere, we should.
Hey, a lot of people hate the system, but anyway, not gonna talk for them. What about the course load? How'd you find the course load? Also, what concentration did you pick? I know. Wait, first year, so it's really like general education stuff like that. You don't do your concentration yet, right?
Yeah. So the nice thing about liberal arts colleges is that you can wait until your second year to decide what you want to concentrate in or major in. And so, but even then, that's kind of an illusion, because you still sort of have to have an idea of what you want to do in your first year, because you still have to finish your prereqs, right? And so that first year is still somewhat important, because you got to get some of those credits and those prereqs done.
Yeah.
And so, coming in, like when I was applying, I actually thought I was going to do something along the lines of like health policy, because I wanted to sort of merge my interests with the biological STEM field, and my political interests. But then coming onto campus, I sort of, I shifted more towards like the pure STEM part, and doing more like hard science and engineering type science. But now I'm sort of shifting back more towards the intersection between the sciences and business. So I'm thinking of doing, possibly a minor in economics, or at least taking like economics classes, because I think the sort of the biotech industry is just something that's super, super interesting and fascinating to me. And that's something that I potentially want to explore as an opportunity. So just sort of find that intersection between, pure business and just in science, because I still want to get involved with science. Science is awesome, right?
It's the fundamental of reality, you could say that.
Yeah.
So your concentration is bioengineering, and you're considering minoring in economics.
Yeah, economics or computer science.
Or computer science.
Or both, or I don't know. We'll see, or neither. I mean, I definitely do want to take classes in both. But I think, but the minor part is more for the label, right? Like you can say like, oh, like I minored in this, but in reality, it's like it doesn't really matter that much, because I still end up taking class. I think, like, thinking about it, it's like if you're going to an employer, like saying I minored in CS probably carries just as much weight as saying I also took 10 CS classes.
Sure. Yeah. Because minor, it's like you reach that threshold. You actually like something official to it.
Yeah.
So what about the course load? Your first year, freshman year, and what courses really stood out to you?
Yeah, course load was fine in terms of workload. It's I think it's what you would expect. It's it's not. Yeah, I think it's what you would expect, right? It's not a horror story, but it's also not a fantasy land, right?
Right.
It's work. There's for this, and I signed up to this one class, which is this intensive integrated life sciences class, which was amazing. It's actually an 8-credit class. So usually classes are 4 credit. This class counted for 8 credits, and it actually took up the spot of 2 classes, right? Because it's 8 credits, and that's where I met some of my really, really good friends. Just a small group of people who are just super nerdy about and fascinated about the life sciences and the integration of all the different disciplinaries in life sciences.
What exactly is integration of life sciences?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, like, what is life sciences, right? Like some biology, some
probably.
chemistry, some physics, some biochemistry, some biophysics, right? Like it's like essentially what integrated means is it's just like you're taking physics, chemistry, biology, and you're, like, integrating them together.
The link between all of them.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like that's where it makes sense, right? Because that's where like there's never just pure bio. Well, I mean there is, but it's like studying pure biology is just like, to me, is not as interesting as looking at biology from the lens of chemistry and physics, because that's how they work. Like that's how the world
They're
works.
interrelated.
Right? Things work together. Things are never just like alone by themselves, right? And so I think that's what's super interesting, is you get to explore the life sciences from these sort of integrated lens. And yeah, that course, it was like maybe 10 hours a week of work. We had so we have these things called problem sets, which are essentially like homework assignments, and they're you need to work in a team for those, because like if you, like, most people can't do them on their own. I
like literally can't. Like,
no, like can't, because it's just hard, right? Like you just need to work with other people.
They're good.
Oftentimes people who are often smarter than you, right? And then leech from them. But it's like no. It was a great class. It was a great community. It was like a small group because it was an intensive class, and so. But the workload was like I said, 10 hours a week on average, just for
Okay.
that class, and then you had other
Just
classes.
for that class, right?
Yeah, and so I think in average it would probably be around like 15 20 hours a week for all your classes, depending on the difficulty of classes you choose. Because certainly some classes have more work than others, but yeah, it's around like 15 to 20 hours, I think.
And I remember you said obviously you signed up for a shit ton of extracurriculars to begin with.
Oh yeah, that was
Oh yeah.
horrible. Yeah, it's like I
What'd you do?
tell myself that was a bad decision in CJEP. Why did I do it again in my freshman year? Right? I think it's just a ritual for freshmen at this point to just try as many things as possible. Like I was
Yeah.
so I signed up to the Chinese Student Association, and then I also signed up to Model UN, and then I was part of HPAIR, which is the Harvard Project for Asian and International Relations, which I still am part of, and it's one of sort of the organizations that I've really decided to dedicate most of my time with. It's a conference organization, and we plan a biannual conference, and it's awesome. I can spend hours talking about that as well. And then I was also part of iGEM, which is a synthetic biology team. And participates every year in the annual synthetic biology iGEM competition. This year, we actually got a gold medal and a nomination for best model, which was super awesome.
Wow.
But usually usually the conference is held in Paris actually, but we obviously fucking didn't end up going. Like,
Man.
it's so annoying. It's so annoying. But no, it ended up being virtual, which was so whack.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that honestly, like a bunch of other small things that I really don't remember, but I ended up
probably
dropping
irrelevant.
most things.
Yeah.
I also did some consulting with a consulting organization as well.
Okay.
But yeah, no, like today I'm mostly doing like I said, HPAIR, which is the Project for Asian and International Relations conference. And yeah.
Now, from academic perspectives, are extracurriculars as important as they are from college to, for example, CEGEP or high school, according to you?
Well, I mean, it's like to me, it's like extracurriculars are just an opportunity.
They're
for
fun,
you to
obviously.
one,
Yeah.
for you to one have fun, two, find a community of like-minded people and just find friends, right? Two, and then three, to explore sort of your own interests, hobbies, or a possible career path for pre-professional organizations like consulting orgs, right? I think those are the three main value adds of extracurriculars, right? Prior to college, you would have probably been like, oh, like extracurriculars are also an opportunity for you to boost up your resume. But like, it's not, like that certainly is like a fourth value add, but the first three are so much more important, so much more valuable.
I totally agree.
Right? Because college is the campus is so big, it's hard to just find an organic place to make friends and meet groups.
That's true.
Organizations are a great place to do that.
Yeah.
And also to just explore your career and possibly things that you might want to do and develop other skills, right? Like planning skills and soft skills, like I said, that you gain through extracurriculars that you can't gain just through classes, right?
Now, I also want to kind of bring up some like the misconceptions. What kind of misconception did you have before going in that you realized, okay, that was not at all the case of it? Anything that happened?
In like school in general, or
let's do Harvard first.
Misconceptions. I don't think I had any conception to begin with, so you can't really have misconceptions. I think, yeah. I mean, I think definitely something that blew me away was just how much, especially the first month, it was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be, because everyone is just so new, and there's this added pressure that, oh, you need to like find your social group, you need to find friends and stuff, and everyone's out there looking for friends, and it was very, very draining, because what you end up doing is you end up engaging in so much small talk with people, and it's always the same thing, right? You meet someone new and you're like, hi, what's your name, where are you from,
what
are you concentrating in, which dorm are you in, right? It's the same questions everyone asks asks the same questions every time, and so it's draining. It was, I think, like by the end of the first month, I was physically and mentally like just drained. Like
All
I
those
just wanted to
social,
lock
yeah,
myself in my room and just watch Netflix for a whole day. Like I was
yeah,
tired. I didn't want to do it anymore.
yeah,
Right. Um, but that's sort of what happens when you put a bunch of random strangers together on a huge campus with people they don't know, and apparently these kids are all supposed to be like super smart, and so
yeah.
you
As
have this added
strangers,
pressure of,
yeah.
yeah, you have this pressure of like performing both from
Hmm.
yourself as well as from your peers, and so that's just something that's going to naturally happen.
Yeah. Actually, a popular misconception I want to ask you. Obviously, it's a generalization. Obviously. So I heard that some people think that like really elite colleges like Harvard, for example, most people there are very self-interested or power hungry, always want to be like for as a top position because that's how they were in high school, for example.
Like
Have you
social
ever,
climbers.
yeah, have you ever experienced something like that? From your
Yeah, for
experience?
sure, 100%. There are many people like that on campus, just as there are many people who are not like that on campus. And I think
Okay.
you'll find different personalities on every campus, right? You'll
Yeah.
have it's just a spectrum of people, and some people are certainly very, very, very into that mindset of like, oh, I'm going to network, I'm going to meet these people, then I'm going to climb the social ladder, like get into an executive position, stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and but certain but just as just as likely as you are to meet someone like that, you're just as likely to find someone who doesn't give a fuck
Mm,
about it, right? Someone most likely an English or philosophy major, right?
right.
They're
Just
like, no
having
offense to
fun,
these
doing what they
people.
love.
Yeah, no offense,
Yeah.
and no offense to like the stereotypes, but I'm obviously just joking, but
Mm,
some, yeah, you also find people who don't care about these things and are just there to have fun.
yeah.
So you end up meeting people from all walks of life and from all different personalities. And again, I think that's the beauty of it. It's such a heterogeneous group where you can just learn
Mm.
so much from everyone. It's awesome.
Was there any like one anecdote that really like wow, okay, I didn't know that. Wow, that's pretty impressive. Or
Uh can't think of one off the top of my head. Come back to it if I think
come
of
back to
something.
it. All
There's
right.
too many.
Right. They're like everyone basically.
Yeah,
That's how they're
yeah,
supposed to
yeah,
be.
pretty much.
Okay. Hey, didn't you say earlier you had some thought about McGill pre-med or something you wanted to bring up later?
Oh, yeah, yeah. So I think, yeah. So here's my thought. Right,
All right.
med school and this whole pre med hype is honestly, I think, the biggest drain and sink of smart people, and it's it's like, as a society, like we are wasting so much talent, so much,
To like
so
kind of
many
like a
smart
repetitive
people
work in a
to
way.
something that doesn't necessarily generate any innovation or
Mm.
doesn't necessarily push our society forward. And I'm not saying that being a doctor or whatever isn't a good thing to do. I think we need smart people in these
Yeah.
positions, right? Because it's important. Like people need to stay alive. People need basic health care. But the sort of and I'm not saying there's no innovation being done from the medical industry. There's a lot. There's a ton.
Yeah.
But I just feel like there's so many more opportunities beyond med school, right? And just the fact that all of the super smart people end up going into med school not because they want to be a doctor, but because of the social cloud of the position and
The
because of
stability,
the
too.
monetary rewards of that position is just a drain. It's a drain on it's an intellectual drain of smart people in our society. And again, I don't mean this in the sense that like people who like everyone who goes into the medical industry is only doing it for social clout. Like
Yeah,
I
of
know
course.
people and people, a lot of people are super genuine, and most people are really genuine. But I just think like if society promoted other career paths and hyped up other opportunities as much as it did the medical system, like we would be able to put smart people into positions where they can innovate in a much sort of a much more efficient way, right? Like You know, if society promoted startups and entrepreneurship more, like think about how much innovation can be done, like by all these smart people, right? But no, like high school barely talks to you about how to start your own project, barely talks to you about how to start your own business. Like you had to go through extracurriculars to find that out, or you had to
Yeah.
find that out based on your own research or your own ambitions or talking with people, right? But for some reason, like high school is like, oh, like, you know, being a doctor is awesome, like, right?
We need
And
more
like
of
when you think
those.
about it,
Yeah.
like all those like kindergarten things or like elementary school like projects where it's like, oh, talk about like what you want to become in the future. Like they never talk about like starting your own project or starting your own company. It's always like doctor, firefighter, policeman, teacher, like,
Astronaut.
right? Like there needs to be a change in the sort of status quo and sort of the way society you know labels certain career prospects. And I think, you know, a lot of people are just at the end just haven't had exposure to this, right? And to them it's like, oh well, like, you know, I'm smart and the way that I can make the biggest contribution is in med school, right? And again, you do an absolutely huge contribution to society, and thank you so much.
Yeah.
But like again, from a global perspective, like moving away from my personal bubble and just thinking of the world and thinking of the world from a utilitarian perspective, like how much total value can be generated in the world. You can generate so much more value if these smart people decide to go into a different industry and decide to innovate or create new products, right?
An idea I always think of, for example, radiology. Radiologists, you need a lot of brains to do that, even though it seems very simple. But let's say radiologists with this mindset of entrepreneurial innovation, they develop AI to just completely solve radiology, basically.
Absolutely.
A lot of medicine can be innovative with, for example, artificial intelligence coming along. Like medicine could be revolutionized, and it takes engineers to do that
100%.
more than medical practitioners.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah. And I think even like even within the medical, like you said, even within the medical community, there can be more of like an entrepreneurial spirit to the way
An
classes are
engineering
taught.
way to see at it.
To the exactly, it's like
A scalable way.
yeah, it pains me to see sort of the industry just like stagnating, right? Because that's what it is, right? You go in, right? You do all this like climbing and personal growth, and then once you get in, all you end up doing is probably growing just a bit. But you end up you end up doing sort of these repetitive tasks and not necessarily innovating on anything and not necessarily creating anything new. And again, like I just want to say, like this, I'm 100% generalizing here.
Yes.
Right? Like there are people who do this in this community.
Yes.
I'm just saying there needs more of it, right? There needs more of it.
Elon Musk kind of said something like that. I remember like too many smart people going into law and not enough engineering. The idea is
law school as well.
Yeah. Don't spare them. Don't spare them.
People.
But people doing like non-scalable jobs, like immense talented people doing non-scalable work.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, I guess the governmental incentives, like the government plays a huge role in if they can somehow change the financial, because the stability and the financial incentive is, I think, the biggest reason why a lot of the talented people just go into medicine, because they want that stability. They don't want to worry about money.
Yeah, I mean, it's a question of stability. It's a question of awareness, of exposure. It's a question of like feeling confident, because like you said, stability, right? Like it's so much safer to just go into med school.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you're pretty much gonna be fine until you retire. But if you decide to start your own project, like there's no stability in that at all, and a lot of people don't have the confidence to do that. You know, that's something that you can raise more awareness on. You can bring more exposure on. You can show stories of how it's ultimately paid off.
Yeah.
And even if you do fail, like there's so much personal growth that you gain through it, and it doesn't mean that, you know, you can't go back into doing something else, right? It's like it's not a situation where it's like you win or you lose, right? It's more of a situation where like this is an opportunity for you to do something incredible and for you to also learn a lot through it. And then if it doesn't work out, you can always do other things, right? Like life isn't just a binary situation, right? Whether it's one or it's a zero, if it's med school or if it's the streets, right? It's not like that.
This constant reinvention also, it's a theme that comes around so often from my entourage, you could say reinvention. People always reinventing themselves. I think we need more stories like that, but also, as you said, well, as I said, I think, but like more like the government should somehow like kind of shift the attention to the long-term perspective. Let's say they invest huge amounts into research, and then in the medical research, for example, this could revolutionize the industry and then bring benefits that we can't even foresee how big they might be.
Exactly.
Yeah. But also, do you have to leave at 12 o'clock?
No, I can stay on for a bit.
Okay, perfect. Because I there's this whole chunk I would really want to talk to you about.
Yeah,
obviously, you know what I'm talking about.
This is fun. No, this is fun. Let's do it.
So, after your freshman year, that was how would you describe it in a couple of words? Tough, demanding, or like sort of like what you expected?
You know what? I would describe it as it's hard to pinpoint like an absolute term to it, but I will say it was made easier again by CJEP. I have friends who have struggled a lot more than I have in their first year because they didn't have CJEP and they didn't have that like mental preparation for what sort of this like independent schedule would look like, and how like you had to sort of socialize yourself and create your own opportunities and stuff like that. And so it was definitely made easier by CJEP. Now, is it hard or is it easy? It's like everything is relative, right? It's
Depends
like it's
on
hard.
So many
like
things,
if I say it's hard, like the definition of hard is different between me and you.
It's not gonna mean much. Right? Yeah.
It's really not gonna mean much. But what I will say, it's like having done CJEP, and if you're someone who's considering doing college in the States and you've gone through CJEP, it'll be a lot easier for you than for other people.
I guess Quebec is finally onto something in that sense. The education sphere. Oh yeah. Because the gap between high school and
they should sponsor me for being like a CJEP ambassador or something.
Shout out.
I praise CJEP so much.
You're the first person I met that's praising it. I get Lucas Bélan loved it too. That's the school of life. So after your freshman year, now approaching the second your sophomore year. Now, this was when COVID hit. Well, COVID already hit, and you're considering taking this gap year. No, because and we spoke about this off record, that this was really stressful for you to make that decision in a way. A lot of pressure from both sides. Now, so what exactly were the things you were weighing on the different sides here, taking that gap year?
So again, just to put a bit of context into this, like, this was sort of the summer after COVID, and school had just announced that everything was going to be virtual. And so you sort of people had to make the decision of whether they want to continue doing their semester of school, but virtually from their homes, or they could take a year off and dive into the unknown. And so I think that was sort of the source of stress, right? The fact that I never took a year off and dove into uncertainty like this, and versus taking virtual class, which is whack, right? Like I said, there's no value in taking a virtual class, right? Like if I wanted to get a virtual education, I'll just watch like Khan Academy or Coursera. Like, why would I pay so much money for it just makes sense, right? And so so that was sort of the stress, right? Like either I end up doing virtual class or I end up going into something that's super uncertain, something that I've never done before, and I don't know like how I'll even make the most value out of it. And so it was super stressful. So but in my mind, I knew like I didn't want to do, I really, really did not want to do virtual class. So I told myself like, I'm going to try to find an opportunity before the deadline where I need to announce like whether I'm taking a year off or not. And again, this is where sort of that 50-50 rule comes in. Like I got really, really lucky in the sense that I ended up finding the opportunity that I was looking for. And like I said, I hinted about this earlier, right? One of the things that I really wanted to do with my year off was to explore something that I usually didn't have the opportunity to, which is sort of this creative hobby of mine to do photography and videography. And on top of that, I was also an avid traveler. I love traveling, and that sort of fed into my videography and my photography. I love doing travel photography and videography. That's sort of where I shined and where my passion was. And so I was like, well, where can I possibly travel in a world of COVID, right? Obviously not internationally. And at that time, Canada was starting to do pretty well. This was before we dipped into the second wave, right? And things were starting to plateau, and things were starting to reopen. And obviously, like, I was very aware of the situation, and I wasn't stupid. I wasn't gonna go around hopping in clubs and shit and not wear my mask. I was gonna, and so I was like, okay, I can do a road trip domestically, right? And the whole point of a road trip, instead of flying again, is for public safety concerns as well, right? Like, it's just so much safer. And so, so I was like, okay, so I want to travel in my gap year, because that to me is traveling is super valuable to me. I want to travel. I want to do photography. I want to do videography. How do I do these things, right? So I was like, what if I just who promotes domestic travel? Who promotes photography and videography? So I was like, like the Canadian tourism organizations, right? They need travel content, and they promote domestic travel. Right. So I was like, okay, so I'll just end up like emailing a bunch of people who are affiliated with Canadian travel tourism organizations. And I, again, got super, super lucky that I ended up getting in touch with this dude from Destination Canada, which is the Canadian government's crown corporation for Canadian tourism. And they were like, we just, because of COVID, we just so happened to have a bit of money left over for small projects like yours, and we'd love to fund you. And at that point, I was like, well, shit, like, I can't pass on this offer anymore, right?
It's a perfect timing,
Exactly. And so at that point, I was like, okay, well, that's set. Someone's paying me to road trip across Canada and to do creative work, right? Something that I like, professional creative work, something that I've never had the opportunity to do before, and something that I might not have the opportunity to do in the future. And so this is a perfect opportunity for me to explore something out of my comfort zone, and something that's new, right? And something that I'm interested in. And so with that in the bag, I was like, yep, I'm leaving school. Bye-bye. And so I ended up road tripping with a friend for 2 months. And we were on the road for 2 months filming. And then I got back, and then it was like post-production stuff, and the video is gonna come out. It was supposed to come out like late November, but because of a lot of the paperwork and the bureaucracy lag, it ended up getting pushed back, and so now it's probably gonna come out sometime in January. But I'm super excited when it comes out. And
what kind of video? Like a short travel film, or?
Yeah, it's a road trip video from east to west. So I left Montreal and road tripped all the way to Vancouver. That's over like 10,000 kilometers that I single-handedly drove because my friend doesn't have a license. And so and so it's a road trip video, and it's essentially sort of like a travel inspiration video to inspire local Canadians, but also internationals post-COVID to just come visit Canada, because Canada's fucking awesome.
It's a beautiful country, no doubt about that. No doubt about that.
There's so many. It's just like, after the road trip, you realize like how beautiful the country is, and there's just so many places that local Canadians haven't even seen themselves yet, and that they should. Like, stop going to Japan and Korea, just fucking to visit Canada. Like,
Japan's pretty like,
it's cool, but I'm telling you, like, Canada is it's there. It's up
quite
there.
amazing. Like, it's huge, so you can see all the different landscapes. So you went to Montreal to Vancouver to Gaspésie, I imagine.
So I went to Gaspésie on a road trip with my family. So that was not part of the project. And so so because it didn't make sense for us to go to Gaspésie and then just circle back, since that wouldn't be on the way, right? So we'd be like doing double the distance for nothing. And again, we had like a budget constraint, and so we decided to just go westwards.
Okay. So you got the confirmation from Destination Canada before you obviously like officially took the gap year, right? So after you got the destination confirmation, you're like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah, pretty much.
The huge relief, I suppose.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so exciting.
Yeah, no. It was very exciting. It was also very, I was anxious as well, because again, I had never done this before. I didn't know how it was going to turn out. There was a lot of sort of uh, there's a lot of uncontrollable factors, right? Like the weather, the road conditions, again, COVID. Like we took, we took, dude, we were so anal about like COVID precautions. You have no idea. Like because obviously like we didn't want to. We didn't want to be a risk for other people, and we didn't want to be at risk either.
Yeah.
And so public health was our number one concern. And we would act so awkwardly in public. Like we would always like circle around people and like turn our backs to people. Like, I mean, I want to do this if it wasn't this type of road trip, but you just had to, there was this sort of moral obligation that we had with the world. So anyhow, yeah, and when I say I wouldn't do this, I mean I wouldn't be so anal about it, but I would still take the necessary precautions, right, when I'm in public.
Yeah.
It's just we were, we like had huge bottles of Sani in our car. We'd sanitize like literally after everything we touched.
I remember in the beginning of COVID, I washed my hands about 12 times a day. My skin was like literally peeling off.
Yeah. It was crazy time. But
I had to ask you, when you take this gap year, do you lose anything in particular, for example, at Harvard? Like,
I mean, you don't really. I guess like technically, like yes, you lose access to like the library and stuff.
Oh, okay.
But I still have access to my email, and stuff. I don't have access to my Zoom account though.
Oh, they have a Zoom account for everyone.
Yeah. We have like we have like the organization Zoom, right? And so I still have access to my Zoom account on my laptop because I signed in before they unregistered me as a student. But like on any new device, I would not be able to sign in. It's just so random. Like, why would you give me access to my email but like not my Zoom account? Like,
it's I mean, definitely like an expense sheet they want to keep track of. No. What about in terms of like course, anything other than college resources? You don't really. I mean, the main thing is you lose out on 1 year, right? Like I'm just gonna end up being 1 year older, but it's like that's sort of the sacrifice that you make. And to me, I'd much rather be a year older, but have an extra year to meet people, right? It's just so much personal growth too.
Yeah. And I think that in and of itself definitely overweighs me graduating a year older than I would have.
Basically, you're going to take your sophomore year with freshmen of this year. Okay.
Pretty much.
Not a huge deal at all, I guess.
No, I mean, it'll be funny, but it's like whatever, right? Who cares?
It doesn't actually matter that much in anything really. So traveling around Canada, you rented an RV, I suppose, and then you packed up all the shit, and then you went off.
No, we were in we rented an SUV.
An SUV.
Yeah, we ended up staying at different hotels and other accommodations, and that's what's awesome is when we work with Destination Canada, they help with a lot of the partnerships. So we were working with a lot of provincial groups as well who were able to offer a lot of hotel stays, which is something that I'm not used to, it's just like a completely different lifestyle, right? And so and it's definitely it was fun, it was cool, but it's a certain lifestyle for a certain type of person.
How much of it came out of your personal pockets to finance this 2-month-long trip?
No, like we calculated our budget pretty tightly. We ended up using the entire budget, and then we didn't spend too much out of our own pockets.
That's perfect, wonderful. What was your favorite spot?
Favorite spot? Oh, jeez.
Or most memorable?
Okay, well, I definitely have the answer for that. So I think favorite spot, hands down, has to be Jasper National Park in Alberta. So Jasper is north of Banff. So Banff is the one that everyone knows about. But Jasper is more low key, and Jasper is, I would argue, actually better than Banff. There's less people. And to me, the landscape there is so much better.
What are the main differences? You can kind of tell.
It's just there aren't that many differences. It's just Banff is more touristic, and it's more it's more popular because of Lake Louise and Lake Moraine, right? The clear blue lakes. Jasper doesn't have as many blue lakes, but it has other equally incredible lakes. And they have glaciers up there too, right? Because so the blue lakes come from the glacier, right? From all the glacier minerals and stuff, and so that's sort of what you're going there for, and the wildlife there is incredible as well. Like in Jasper, there's so much wildlife. Like there's elks like on the streets everywhere.
Joe Rogan would be mad about that. Everywhere. Anyway.
Yeah. Jasper, 100%. If there's one place that you need to go in Canada, is Jasper National Park, and then you can easily go to Banff from there, right? It's you just drive downwards.
It's neighbors.
Yeah, exactly. And but one of the places that was most, I think, unexpectedly incredible, and one of the most to me, it's like it's a low-key place that people don't really talk about, that people don't really know about, but that's actually like insane. It's one of those hidden gems of Canada.
Okay,
that's Saskatchewan. That's Saskatchewan.
Yeah, nobody talks that much about it here.
Nobody talks about Saskatchewan, but Saskatchewan is fucking incredible, man. Like,
really,
the place that absolutely blew our mind was Grasslands National Park in Saskatchewan.
I gotta look that up right now.
It's this place that's unreal. It's so different from what you would imagine the Canadian landscape to be, right? You have these incredible badlands. It's super orange, and you have these incredible just like flatland, grassland formations. Yeah. It literally feels like, so on one of the hikes that we went on, it literally felt like we were walking on a different planet. That's how mind blown we were. Wait, that place is incredible. Sorry?
Yeah, I think you had a couple pictures on your Instagram.
Wait, yeah. Pull it up on the Instagram. It's incredible.
It's like this one.
Oh yeah. Notably. Yeah. So those are the Badlands. And then if you keep scrolling, you can see the thing that looks like, So see the last few pictures, like like that one. It literally doesn't look like Earth. Like it looks like a different planet.
Oh yeah, it looks like Mars with a bit of grass.
Yeah, it's insane. Like the emotions you feel when you're walking there are just incredible, and no one talks about it. It's such a hidden gem.
Yeah, it's the first time I heard about it.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, look at that.
Do go to Saskatchewan. Go visit the Grasslands National Park.
Actually, let's take a little bathroom break or something.
Let's do that. Yeah, go for it.
All right, I'll be right back.
I'm gonna go grab some tea. I used to not be a big tea drinker, but then on campus, because I worked a barista job at a cafe for the first semester. So but I didn't want to drink coffee all the time because I only drink coffee when it's necessary. I don't like drinking it every day.
Yeah.
And so I had to find something because as a barista, you get to take whatever you want at the coffee store. You get to have everything for free. So I had to find something to take for free, right? So I was like, yeah, let me just start drinking tea. And so that's how it started. Now I'm a big tea drinker.
I can't get into coffee. Tea is just like fragrant water, to me at least.
Yeah.
Now, you see all the snow outside? It's actually pretty cozy, I'm not gonna lie. I like a big snow day.
You know what? I like snow as long as it stays snow and it doesn't become slush. That's when it's not fun. That's when it's not fun,
Hey, you're actually like a lot of my guests. I don't realize that they're literally probably all 20 minutes away from me where I'm doing the recording.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Montreal is a small island, so
it's good. I love a mid-sized city.
Yeah,
I love taking long walks from downtown to where I am at night and
that's
summer.
True. Yeah, that's very doable. It's very doable. Yeah, I my other sort of controversial topic is I'm tired of Montreal, and
you're a nomad. You're a nomad.
Yeah, I mean, it's just Montreal is just too small for me.
I thought about that as well a couple of times, but then you realize how rich the city is. Well, For example, the restaurants, I can never finish like the good list of restaurants in Montreal. Um,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's mostly like, look, like when I like when sorry, what was I gonna say again? Oh, right, big small cities. Have you ever been to Shanghai?
when I was really young, yeah, like 6 year
Okay,
old, yeah, it's
okay.
ginormous. That I know.
Um, yeah. So like I was in Shanghai like 2 years ago, last year. I don't remember. Yeah, last year around this time. And man, like let me tell you, like once you go to Shanghai, you just don't see Montreal the same way, right? It's
Really,
like Montreal is just so tiny. It's so tiny.
I
Like
remember.
you
Yeah,
go, yeah, like you go to a city like Shanghai, like like the Montreal downtown, you take that and you multiply that by 50. That's the city.
yeah,
Like
that I can confirm. Also, like you'll
it's so
never
much more
realize,
like
even when I went to New York, like when I was like, I only went to New York twice. One was that when I was really young. One recently, like a year and a half ago, and then you realize how people are living, like how rich can somebody be, and then you realize New York, and then you see Shanghai, like people can be rich, rich, rich.
yeah, you definitely see the wealth disparity much bigger in some of these bigger cities, but it's
What I find invaluable is that Montreal. Why it's so unique is that you have these great, amazing neighborhoods that are wealthy enough, like attainable. Westmount, Outremont, in the middle of the city, near a hill. I think the lifestyle is just so nice. I don't know, to me at least.
Montreal's just too small, man.
It is
Like
small. It is small.
you I it's just like the the amount of people that you meet and the number of things that you can do will eventually be exhausted in Montreal.
Uh,
Whereas
or go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I mean, whereas it's there is just so much
Yeah,
more things to do
that is true.
in another bigger city.
What's exciting about Montreal, at least, is probably all the artificial intelligence and the tech that's happening, or emerging tech hub, people call it.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah. I mean, for sure, if you're into AI, then Montreal is definitely a great place
that's
to
true.
be.
Where do you want to live? What's your cities?
I mean, currently, I'm absolutely in love with Shanghai, and so
Mm.
if I could right now, I'd be there right now. uh, would I end up living there? I don't know. I mean, I also really like Toronto. Toronto is also a really great city. Like it better than Montreal.
Okay,
No offense to anyone, but it's
debatable,
just
but okay.
I'm just a big city person.
What can
I
you do?
need like I need the hype. I need the constant
The
sort of
rush.
yeah, like the hustle and bustle and
Yeah.
the environment where there's just always new things, always new things.
Mm. Exciting.
You never
Can't
run
deny
out
that.
of things to do. Because look, I like in Montreal, I would always look at Montreal blog for the weekly things to do because I had lost inspiration at what to do. Montreal blog has this weekly article, right, that says like for like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they're like,
No, I
here are
do
the
that as
top
well.
things to
I do that
here are
as
the
well.
top things to do in Montreal. Right, I would never look at that if I
It's
was
so
in Shanghai
limited.
because there would be so many things that I had never tried out and that I could just
Mm-hmm.
do. Right, but in Montreal, I'm like, what have I not done before? What can I do this weekend? I don't fucking know. I need someone to tell me. Like,
In
that at
Montreal,
that
yeah.
point you realize like it's
It's like
time to
more a
move
place
to
to
another city.
settle down maybe. Like,
It's a
when you
good,
have a nice,
yeah,
yeah.
no, it's a good place to settle down. I think it's a great
Yeah.
place to raise kids because you're in this bilingual environment and very
Yes.
multicultural
Yes.
place, right? But as like a teenager, as a young adult, I live for the hype, and so you know,
I agree
sorry,
with you on that
Montreal.
point. I agree with you on that point. Oh man. Anyway, we've been over 2 hours. Let's get to where we were. So you said this trip offered you this kind of like new perspective on creative work, of like this whole like kind of like paradigm shift. What was that about?
Yeah, so I think like, again, speaking from personal experience, like
Yeah.
I've always loved, like creative work, in the sense that like, I used to do a lot of painting. I used to do a lot of drawing. My parents forced me into, those classes. I used to hate it, but now I like it,
Same. Yeah.
and but I'm very thankful that they put me through those classes. And I, I love, I just love thinking creative. Anything that has to do with design, like even when designing,
Oh.
when I was designing the app, which about, we talked about it
We'll
off
talk about
record.
it later.
But
Yeah.
it's just so much fun. Working on the UI, working on design aspects. I've just always loved the creative aspect of a lot of these things, right? But it just it I think a lot of people say never mix your hobbies with your work,
Okay.
and it's something that you realize only when you actually put yourself in an environment where your hobby becomes work. And that's very true when when I did this sort of project for Destination Canada, because I wasn't just photographing and
Yeah.
and filming for myself or for my own like hobby or passion, right? This time I was doing it for a project, commission to do it, as paid for do it. I had expectations, and so it was very different, in terms of what I expected myself to do and what people expected me to do. And with this added pressure and expectation, sort of in some ways, at least for me, it like sucked out. Every day I would end up waking up, and the first thing I would think about in the morning is like, okay, what shots do I need to get here? How are we going to plan our day around what I'm trying to film, and not around what I'm trying to like explore from a tourist angle, right? And every day I would think about, okay, so like, how do I get these transitions? How do I transition from location to location?
Yeah.
What's the narrative that I'm going to be doing? And I think about this 24/7 for 2 months. And it was mentally and very physically draining. And we also didn't have a lot of time to just take a break and to just like not think about it, right?
Right.
Like, don't get me wrong, it was so much fun traveling, road tripping, and seeing Canada, but we weren't doing it from a necessarily 100% from a tourist angle. And so we missed out on a lot of those things, right? And so I think, especially for a lot of creative people, you only really know what it's like doing work as a creative until you actually get paid to do it, or get hired to do something. And then that just puts a whole new perspective on the meaning of like creative work and professional work. And
Because
you
you're met with a lot of
respect it a lot
limitations
more.
at the same time, and then you have to.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's not always rose gold and nice, right? It's like people always have this misconception where it's like, oh, like it must be so awesome, like creating content, right? You just have so much freedom and stuff. In reality, it's like, it's still work. It's still you still have deadlines. It's a lot of pressure, and sometimes, especially when the creative engines aren't running, then you just start getting stressed because you're like, well, fuck, like I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do this scene. And this happened a few times on the trip where I was like, I was like mini depressed. I was like, shit, like I don't know how to like do this transition from this place to this place. Like, what am I gonna do? Like, because obviously I don't want to give a shitty product in the end.
Yeah.
So it's like, sometimes it just gets really stressful and a lot of pressure. And you only really know when you try it. And so this is sort of like the advice again, where it's like, just try things, just do things, right? Like, go out of your comfort zone and do things.
Definitely.
You never really know if you like it or not if you don't try it, right?
And especially at an intense level, which is probably like working for a client, for example. An idea that I kind of thought of just then, probably like when your creative hobbies become partially a means to an end, which is like working with a client and stuff, it stops being entirely an end in itself. You start to enjoy it a bit less. You sort of see it from different perspectives.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to put it. It's sort of, it takes up like two different identities now, right? Because it's like you want to enjoy it, but then some elements of it don't become enjoyable anymore.
Yeah.
Because of the nature that it's become commercial work, right? But I mean, so, for some people that's once they do it, they'll realize like this is their cup of tea, right? This is what they love doing, and this is great. And like awesome. We need this type of people, and for a lot of people it works. For other people, it doesn't. yeah, so
So coming out of this, would you say your passion for photography, videography increased or decreased a little bit?
um I think so. In terms of my passion for photography and videography, it never decreased, right? I think
Okay.
it'll always continue increasing. I think where the line blurs is whether I would continue doing this sort of, if I would like envision myself doing this like
Yeah.
full time or like professionally or more seriously. And I honestly think the answer to that is no. Um, Again, like some people might be asking like why would you not do it, right? Like you're getting paid to do
Uh-huh.
something that seems very fun, right, to a
Yeah.
lot of people, and you get to do a lot of really cool stuff, right? Like people will pay you to go to the country. People will give you free hotel stays at these crazy like luxurious places. Like why would you not do it? And it's true, like I don't know, like hats off, like
Not
absolutely
denying
I
that.
would
Yeah.
do it. I would do it for those, but it's like it's just in terms of like how much like I value what I bring to the world, and and then it comes back to what I enjoy doing, and a lot of the aspects of creative work is just I think like some of the more like the commercial stuff is just not as enjoyable, I think,
Mm.
to me anymore. And I think to me right now I'm at a point where it's also like I feel like I want to do something so much more with my life, and I'm in an opportunity where I can do that,
Okay.
that I want to take that path instead. But with that being said, if I would still love to continue exploring this as something like a side. I wouldn't consider doing this professionally in the future as a possible full time career. But what I would consider, is continuing doing this as a side hobby, right? Like, I think like I said, I still love photography and videography, and I love traveling, and I'll continue doing this. Um, but I just want to do it full time. And so, maybe one summer I might feel like I want to travel to, I don't know, like Hong Kong or
Um,
something. And then,
not the best time to say Hong Kong right now, but
oh, no, not right now, in
yeah,
the future, right?
of course, of
Sometime.
course. I'm joking.
And
Let's say
so,
Hong Kong.
like, or whatever other country, right?
Yeah.
And then, and then maybe I can do some work there.
Mm.
Um, there's, if you look for the opportunities and if you're lucky enough, you might land on something. And
Yeah.
so I would definitely continue doing this sort of as a side gig or just for fun, but like full time, probably not.
Also, these are talents that skills that you pick up that for the app that we might talk about a little bit earlier, for designing that app, like these passions of these skills can be integrated into your existing work, and it just makes you so much better in that sense. They could be complemented in a way that these hobbies still don't remains like a side talent contribution to your main project.
Yeah, like I think it's the same thing with the integrated life sciences, right? Like everything in life is ultimately like cross
Yeah.
disciplinary, right? Everything is interlinked, and so if you're a creative person and you do a lot of creative work, that is going to be reflected in the way you engineer solutions to problems as well, right? Like everything is interlinked, really. Everything is, and so skills are never wasted. Skills are never wasted, and so certainly, the creative skills that I'm able to sort of develop by doing this type of
Yeah.
project will 100% translate into other projects that I work on, and I'm really grateful for that.
Yeah. One question kind of out of place, but one of my friends who's actually know I'm doing this, wanted me to ask you. So what exactly why did Harvard became your choice? What about MIT, Stanford? Or is it just the first one? What made you choose Harvard in particular?
Yeah, I mean, like let's be frank, most of the like higher level colleges in the states, those
Yeah.
schools like in the Ivy League or even Stanford and MIT, like the academic curriculum is pretty much the same. Like I would get the same like pretty much the same education had I gone
Okay.
to MIT for engineering, Stanford for CS, or whatever, Princeton for something else, or whatever, or yeah, like the education is very similar. They all have great professors and great faculty. And now what's different is sort of the people who attend these schools. And to me, honestly, I would have probably been really, really happy going to any of these other schools. Like ultimately, I think the choice is very arbitrary, right? It's because Harvard is Harvard, and
No denying that.
sorry. So yeah, so obviously the name carries a lot of weight.
Yeah.
Um, oh my God, sorry, the T.
The morning tea.
Obviously the name carries a lot of weight. That's a huge consideration. The school is also based in Boston, which is a huge biotech hub. And so, or rather Cambridge, but Cambridge is right next to Boston. So, Boston is a huge biotech hub, and Harvard is 5 hours drive away from home. So, sort of a lot of things worked out in the end, right? Had Harvard been in the middle of North Dakota, I don't, like, if that had been the case, I don't know. But I think had I been accepted to Yale or Stanford or any other prestigious school, I would have been equally happy. And I don't think it makes much of a difference, right? Like I said again, at the end of the day, what makes a difference is the people you meet. And to me, it's just like, I want to go somewhere where I can have as many opportunities to meet people from different places, people who are like-minded, people who are smart, and learn from them. And I felt like Harvard was a great place for me to sort of explore that community, and it would be a great community for me to explore.
Yeah.
But again, ultimately, the decision between Harvard and like a place like MIT is very arbitrary, and probably like name recognition plays a huge. But
oh, you cut out, but you're back.
So name recognition plays a huge role in it. Yeah. Yes,
Okay.
Sorry. So I was saying like name recognition plays a huge role in it, but a lot of other small things like add up to that as well. Right?
Practical reasons, like literally distance from traveling home and forth. No, you're right. We said we want to scratch the surface about this new project that you're working on, so let's not name it. It's up to you, obviously. So.
Oh, I mean, we can name it. It's fine.
You're gonna have to expect some more early adopters then. Maybe.
Well,
maybe.
That's totally fine for us. So the project, which is Babbl, right? BABBL.
Yeah.
And it's in short, it's a voice first social media platform. That's in short, it's what it is. It's a mobile application. Yeah. It's a social platform where people can essentially make short form audio posts and also send voice messages through a new user interface and user experience. And essentially what it's trying to do is trying to create an environment for to put audio as the central medium of communication between people, right? Because since Facebook, Instagram video, a lot of these platforms, Twitter, a lot of these platforms have been able to utilize very efficiently things like pictures with the likes of Instagram or video, and now short form video with the likes of TikTok to communicate messages, to communicate emotions and whatnot, and Twitter through the form of text, right? But no one has really used audio, and no one has really capitalized on all the benefits that audio brings to the table, right? And audio is such a popular form of media.
Especially the rise of podcasting nowadays.
The rise of podcasting, the rise of voice technology, things like voice recognition, Google Home, Amazon Alexa, Siri, whatever. And if you think about it, like voices is like we use our phones to call people. We leave voicemails to people. We like when you're in the car, you listen to the radio. Like voice has been around forever. Right, it's used by everyone, and it's such a more natural way for people to communicate than through text, right? If I were to write in all caps like "Let's go," like you can read it as "Let's go." You can also read it as "Let's go," right?
Yeah.
There's just so many ways to interpret the message, right? And like there's so much like miscommunication that happens over text, right?
Yeah.
Especially with when you're dating people or stuff, right? Like you get into
you're trying to play hard to get, and then you're like also
exactly. But like people don't really understand what's happening, right? It's like, it's just voice audio has just been around for so long, yet no one has used it, and only recently has platforms started to inch towards voice messages and certain voice products, but no one has fully adopted it or utilized it in an efficient manner. And so what we want to do is what Babbl wants to do is create this social environment where we can use voice to make our social interactions just more engaging and more more human, and utilize the benefits that audio has to offer.
I see. First of all, I see text as, well, it's why it's popular, but I see more as like a safe space. You keep more of that anonymity, because sometimes you don't want all the tone to be conveyed. You don't want too much of your imprint on that. And funny thing we mentioned, because we talked about this before, but Chinese communities, WeChat, maybe even some European voice chat is super common between like day-to-day DMs, not calls, but literally voice messages. And I talked about this with my friend the other day, and then what we thought was that WeChat, for example, and the culture, the Asian culture, have these people very intimately connected. So that's why they use voice messages more. While in the Western area, in North America, it's more individuality, more. So it's kind of like more text. And I don't know how clear that idea was.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. But I think so two things on that. One, I also think another thing that makes it why Asian cultures tend to use voice messaging more, as well as some European cultures, is that there's this sort of linguistic challenge too.
Yeah,
so there's
true.
a lot of like in China alone, there's so many different dialects, right? Whereas in North America, people just speak English, whatever, right?
Yeah.
But in China, there's different dialects, there's different ways of communication, and in different Asian regions and Asian countries, there's this there's a lot of sort of asymmetry when it comes to languages, but when it's written, right? And so voice helps mitigate a lot of those issues. Now, the other thing I think is that's super interesting is that voice and audio, I don't see it necessarily as a direct competitor to using text. Like, people are still going to text. Like, we're not trying to say no to that. Like, texting is awesome, right?
Yeah.
Like, people are still going to write emails. People are still going to like write blogs and write mailing lists and stuff like that. People are still going to write essays. Like it makes sense because it had texts and the written format and the written medium has its use.
It's fundamental.
But audio and voice also has its use.
Yeah.
Right? In situations where I want to express myself more clearly, in situations where I'm trying to, where I want to break up with someone, like, I'm not going to do it through text, right? So it's like, yeah. Although, whatever, we won't get into that story, but like voice messaging has its use, and audio has its use, right? That's what we're trying to demonstrate. And I think a lot of people don't really. It's sort of an issue that hasn't really gone into that people haven't really realized until lately, right? When podcasts started becoming more and more of a thing, and when my friends, like, I was literally talking to someone and they're like, yeah, I literally don't like video calling people anymore. I just like to voice call because I'm tired of looking at my screen constantly because of quarantine, right? Audio has its use, and similarly with video and short form videos, right? It's like we talked about this off the record, but it's like, well, watching a movie is not the same thing as watching a TikTok, right? Like, if I'm in the mood to watch a movie, it's a completely different mood and a completely different use case from me watching a TikTok, right? Like, most people, like, if they're going to watch a movie, they wouldn't necessarily do it like on the bus when they're commuting to somewhere, right? They probably watch TikTok, right? But then when they're at home, when they have like hours on end to burn, maybe they might put all that time towards watching a movie, right? So there are different use cases. Similarly, again, with audio, right? Sometimes you want to communicate a message through audio. Sometimes you want to talk about things in a more, engaging way. Sometimes you just want to connect. It just feels like you're more engaged with people when you can hear their voices, when you can hear their emotions and their tones, right? Sometimes that's what you want to do. Other times that's not what you want to do, right? And so what we're trying to do with Babbl is sort of harness all of these use cases in audio, and there are so many use cases, yet no social platforms have been able to offer sort of an environment for people to benefit from these use cases. Yeah. Right. And so that's sort of what we want to do, and that's sort of what we've actually just started beta testing with a few of our early adopters, and we want to see sort of what people think of the platform and how it's going to be used. And so obviously, like, we had to beta test this with a few people. you're on the platform,
There you go.
which is awesome. And I think it's like over time, what we'll be doing is sort of listening to the feedback and what are the things that people want to see in an audio first platform, and moving towards sort of a world where audio can become one of those mediums that people can lean on, right? Like, you remember when I'm sorry if I'm talking too much, please feel free to
Don't worry,
interrupt me
don't
at
worry.
any point. But like, I remember when Snapchat first came out. I was in high school, and when I heard of the concept of Snapchat, I was like, "What the fuck? This is so stupid! Like, why would I send a picture as a message to someone? Why don't I just text them?" Right? But like, as the more you use it, like, the more you realize, like, Snapchat has a use case. It has a use case. It does. And it's like a lot of people don't realize it until they're offered sort of that product, that medium, right? And so, similarly, I think, like, we notice these hints in the way we interact in our community, that audio is starting to become something that people enjoy more. Podcasts, for one. Music has always been around, right? Music and the auditory feelings has always been around. And again, I come back to voice technology, right? Google Home, Amazon Alexa, right? This is good. Like pretty much 1 out of 2 households has one of those things.
I have
right?
2 of those.
Yeah,
I can.
And how are you supposed to integrate TikTok with Google Home, right? Like, I don't fucking know. Like, Google Home, can you play a TikTok?
Projector,
No,
a projector.
It's like, you know, like, and so, we're slowly moving towards a world where some things are starting to become tactless, or where you don't necessarily need to directly interact with it anymore.
Yeah.
And I think an audio world, and especially if a social media is able to sort of combine all of these nice benefits together onto one platform, it'll make it so that, eventually 5 years down the road, I could be like, hey Google, like, eventually, like, 5 years down the road, I could be like, hey Google, like, can you, can you send this voice message to X person, or tell me what the world is tell me what the world is saying about hashtag Biden Trump. So it's like, like, that would be such a more seamless way than for me to, like, go onto Twitter. Or, first of all, who uses Twitter anymore? I don't know, but
Wow.
so, you can go on Twitter, or and just scroll and endlessly and be on your phone, when I can just listen and do other things at the same time. Different use cases. That's what I want to. That's what I talk about.
What I see so important here is with audio is that level of intimacy, that level of responsibility, because it's your voice. A text, it could theoretically be said by anyone, but your voice, it's so close to you. And then when people put themselves out there with their own voice, there's such a big filter that happens. First of all, I feel like a lot of things you said over text, you wouldn't say over audio, probably with your own 100%. Voice. So I think you mentioned, an idea you mentioned was that the quality of for example, a debate on something, the quality of that would probably be better on audio versus text.
Yeah, like, you'll hopefully eliminate most of, the trollers and the annoying people who just write stupid shit in the comments, right? Like, they just write a bunch of swear words and stuff, and it's like, why? Right?
If they say out loud, they'd be so dumb. They'd look so silly.
Right. It's like, well, right. So hopefully that'll like improve the quality of conversation you have with people. But also, it's like, I totally agree with what you said, right? Like, when you put your voice to something, you're identifying, you're putting your identity onto that, piece of a speech or piece of content, right? Whereas if I write, a text, like, it doesn't feel as personable. It doesn't feel as real, right? When I read a comment, it just feels like any other comment, right? But when you listen to someone, it's like, okay, there's a real human being saying this to you, and they're telling you this, right? And you can hear them.
A connection, a stronger bond too, as well.
Exactly. And it's a happy medium, because sometimes I don't want to see your face, right? And sometimes you don't want to show your face either. And it's not, if I was doing video replies, like, that's not convenient, right?
It could be awkward. It could be, a lot of things.
Exactly. So it's like, again, it's this idea, like, it's a different use case, and it's a different value add for different people, right? And the fact that no one's utilizing this and no one's creating an environment for it, that's the sort of the premise why we decided to do this. because like we're tired that this doesn't exist. We want this to exist, right?
And yeah, and the other advantage of audio is that it's like probably the only thing that can be passively consumed while you're exercising or taking a jog. You don't have to you don't have to stay there, actually do it. And audiobooks, podcasting, they worked. They're working better more and more each day. I definitely see like a social media way to do it. And the thing with TikTok and Instagram is that they're always going for, well, every social media nowadays going for the hyper densification of content, so you can consume 500 different little things instead of one big thing. And in audio, there isn't that one thing. Maybe Spotify Discover, you could say that, but the hyper densification of content. So I think that's where Babbl is going, I suppose.
Yeah, I think we have the opportunity. I really think we have the opportunity to create something new and really. Yeah. With audio and with voice, create a platform that will sort of increase the quality of social media, man. Like social media has just been over the last few days, you know, like it or not, but it's just becoming just a center for a lot of bad things. Like, you know, like you think about like Facebook and all of the sort of the hate groups, the fake messages and the bots that create fake messages and spread non-factual, you know, information across people, and that has an incredible influence on especially people who have a lower literacy rate and who might not understand this, has an incredible influence on the way people think about the world.
Right.
Right. And I like if you take places that are a bit more rural or have a lower literacy rate, places like Myanmar, Facebook has been used to, you know, generate a lot of hatred towards certain minority groups.
Almost genocidal level, almost.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like this type of thing would not work if it was voice. Right?
Well, I wouldn't.
Okay, it wouldn't work as efficiently, is what I would say.
Sure.
Right. Obviously there will still be that, but I just think like it's so much like
it's a big filter, big chunk.
It's a big filter, but also I think in general it's just like the theme that we're going for here is just we want to improve the quality of the type of content that people make, right? And voice provides that opportunity. Right?
Yeah, and then you see all those machine learning AI built. I saw this video of Kim Kardashian or of celebrities saying a bunch of weird, dumb things that was generated by an AI bot. Yeah, but audio deepfakes as well. Those things
that's also. Audio deepfakes is definitely also a reality.
There's no escaping that.
There's no escaping. I think it's scary, but it's, you know, it's not as prevalent right now. But I think eventually, once they become more accessible, it's something that it'll be one of the challenges that we'll have to face in terms of filtering out and detecting bots and deepfakes for the security of everyone, right?
And I want to say like kind of like a double-edged sword here. Audio is more intimate, but when it's used like in deepfakes, that bond could also be stronger with disinformation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. It's one of the, you know, it's one of the challenges, but I think it's, you know, it's a challenge that's not unique to audio.
that's for
video
sure.
Deepfakes. I mean, text is just, you know,
it's too easy. It's too easy, man.
It's just natural. Like you can just write whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah.
Like, anyone can be whoever they want over text. So it's like, definitely like in terms of deepfakes, like if you talk about text, then that's the worst, right?
Talk about catfishing, just, you know.
Like a catfishing, that's the worst, even catfishing, right? Like pictures and stuff. And then video deepfakes are definitely the most challenging. Audio deepfakes are somewhere in the middle, right? Yeah. And so eventually, we will have to build tools around these security measures. But for now, like I said, we are focused mostly on building a product that will become usable by a lot of people. And so the reason why I didn't want to promote this too much is because we sort of want to start with a smaller group of early adopters to sort of just test out the platform and see what works and what not. And so if you're someone, you know, who only consumes finished products, then I would not recommend you coming. But if you're someone who's very excited about the prospect of having this new, you know, medium of communication that's more human, more engaging, and you're excited about testing this, then please join the beta. And then, talk with us, and we'd love to hear your feedback on how we can make this better. And so sort of as a timeline for us is like, we want to talk with as many people as possible currently with our early adopters and reach a point when we're comfortable that what the set of features that we have is able to accommodate most of the needs of the people. And at that point, we're probably going to try to scale more. But right now, because we're like 2 days old.
Yeah.
We're 2 days old. And so it's very exciting, but we're trying to sort of, we're trying to bring people to the beta so that we can talk to them. And so if, like I said, if you're someone who's interested, like, please feel free to join. With
Babbl, Babbl, on App Store, Play Store, right? Come to a Play Store near you. I have a question. Why are there so many New Yorkers on Babbl? Where do all the New York-based people come from?
You know what? I don't know. I don't know. But we really do have people from a lot of people. I also think just, in general, like big chunk of the U.S. population is in New York, so statistically you just have a higher chance of meeting in New York, right?
No, I had a lot of fun. People are like a lot of podcasters, so I saw you got a theme. Anyway, I mean, that's the audio people.
100%. Yeah, so we're working with a lot of podcasters right now because that's sort of a group of people that we can easily target at the start, right? Like, these are people who have a clear use case, obviously to promote their podcast or to promote their audio content. And so we want to first make the product usable for them and their listeners. And then once we can check that off, then it's a question about scaling to other types of users, right?
Yeah.
We're thinking about, musicians, people who want to, A/B test their lyrics or test their songs and their writing with a group of people before publishing it on Spotify or SoundCloud or wherever they publish their music, right? There's a huge use case for musicians and singers. There's also a huge use case for politicians, businessmen, venture, thought leaders, right? People who want to communicate ideas to people.
Definitely.
Right? It's so much more efficient to do it through voice. Like if I were to send you a text, you might not be convinced by something. But if I called you and talked to you about it with my voice, right, then you might have a better chance at being convinced by something, right?
Yes.
So then we come back to this idea of like voice being a more powerful tool to to spread messages and stuff, and the whole dilemma behind that.
Yeah, we're not going to get too deep into that because that's that. Well, it's based in Montreal, right? Technically.
Yeah, so I guess you can say it's based in Montreal since all the developers are in Montreal. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see where this leads.
It's a good time to start a startup in Montreal. It's a great time. I want to say the best time yet.
Great time to start a startup anywhere, man. Honestly,
Well, I would say Montreal is specifically like we're approaching that landscape of. We're having more and more VC funds every day, every month. We're having more and more entrepreneurs being inclining.
That's true. I mean, I'm not too familiar with, the Montreal startup environment simply because I was, I wasn't too deep into the startup environment until I left. And so, but no, absolutely. Like a lot of my friends, a lot of people I talk with, Montreal is a great place, especially if you're doing AI.
Especially, well, I mean, AI is going to be probably encompassing a lot of technologies, like probably all of them, honestly. Can't think of a use case. All right, we're approaching 3 hours. Anything we missed?
No, I think we're good. This was super fun. Like, I had a great time just talking about shit. If we had more time, would love to continue talking, but obviously, like, people have things to do with their day. They don't want to hear us talk all day, right?
I'm going to splice this up into multiple segments. I'm still testing out formats. Like, which one work? Which do you want to, like, 1 2 hour, 3 hour recording and then like 3 highlight clips? Or do you want to splice the 2 hour clip into 3 times 40 minutes episode? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Find the right middle.
I don't know. Intuitively, just in general, it's a good idea. I like how you're keeping like one long format and then a few shorter clips. I like that idea. What's the exact numbers? Man, I believe in you. You can figure that out.
Yes. All right. Anything you want to shout out before we?
No, I just want to say thank you. Thank you to Mingxi for having me. This was awesome.
Thank you. Instagram, YouTube. You want to shout out or not? Well, I might as well. No?
I mean, sure. You can put my.
I'll link it in the description. Definitely.
Yeah. You can look. You can also link actually. You can also link Babbl. www.babbl.app. For people who are interested in learning more. Yeah.
All right. That's it. If you listen all the way until the end, I want to give you a big shout out. Thank you so much for all the support. I really appreciate it. And consider leaving us a positive rating if you enjoyed it or if you learned something useful from it. It'll help us bring the content to more people who otherwise might never discover the podcast. So thank you again. You can check us out on Instagram at The Visionaires. And you can also email us at TheVisionairesPodcast. So that's the name, The Visionaires Podcast at gmail.com. If you want to come on the show, if you want to have a chat, or anything at all, if you want to come have lunch, that's fine as well. Social distancing, obviously. All right, that's it for me, everybody. Bye-bye.